It's true. Jubilee called me woke, and I mean, I guess they kind of have a point. I mean, I am the guy in blue right over there, and well, I guess we're talking about my experience and reacting to the new Jubilee video that I got to take a part in. We got to have 25 progressive men talk to 25 traditional men and try and find middle grounds about life lessons and the truths of life, I suppose. And well, as you can imagine, a bunch of men giving their opinions. It went just swimmingly. So it's already a long video and it's 3 in the morning for me. So let's just get into it. Honestly, we have an hour and 33 minutes to go. I don't need my headphones. I just realized. So let's do it. Let's start it off real hot.
I've literally heard women say, "I hate men."
Of course,
Literally.
absolutely. And
Death
some
to
I
the
like how they
patriarchy.
do
a
a
lot of these
teaser.
ideas of what you
Oliver
think misandry
and this
is
guy's
are just
debate.
your
So Oliver's the guy in
misogynistic
blue.
instincts and assumptions being exposed.
Yeah,
This is a
now
good
you're,
one.
You're assuming that I'm misogynistic
I'm not
because
assuming.
yeah, you are.
I'm not assuming. That was not an assumption. I gave you a very clearly
You're
rhetorical
demonstrating
path.
it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, I hate
Because
men.
that's
Do you
literally
think,
the
do you think he's
definition.
misogynistic?
Yeah, probably. I think we all are a little bit, some more than others. Yeah.
All right, it's
Wow,
2025.
in the background is so good. Okay, whatever. I don't have much to say about that one. We'll get there when we get there. Let's just go ahead and get it going.
President, and we're back with another Middle Ground XL. Behind me, I have 25 traditional men and 25 progressive men. We're gonna ask them some
And that's
questions, and we're gonna see if they can find a middle ground. Our first question is, should it be socially acceptable for men to wear skirts? Come forward and find your speaker for
So already kind of interesting is that was not the first middle ground prompt. We had, I think, at least one more before this one, and I guess they just cut it. I guess they didn't think it was very good, which, to be fair, I honestly thought that both of our speakers, the progressive and the traditional one, they didn't really seem to have their kind of heart in it, which is very strange because they both volunteered to go up and we voted for them to go up. But then when they got up and started talking to each other, they both were just super laid back. And there really wasn't too much of a strong conversation going on. So I guess that's probably why it got cut. But, yeah.
this issue.
All right. Me personally, I like fashion. I tried to dress nice today.
You did dress nice today.
Thank you.
I'm wearing a woman's sweater right now. This is from Brandy Melville.
So Riley steps up and he talks, and he's a cool guy. Go ahead and let him
My
do his
culture,
thing.
like I'm Native Hawaiian, men have traditionally worn skirts. We go back to other cultures, Japan, long gowns. Traditionally, men have been seen in history to be wearing the same clothes that women do now, and America is a much younger society than any of these cultures that have dated back thousands and thousands of years.
Okay, so first I'd like everyone to take a second and take a look at the fellas and what they're wearing over there. Let's be so real right now. How are they gonna argue about what fashion? Yeah, about what fashion is supposed to mean in a manly sense or traditional sense?
Okay, so hot off the presses. I guess I should have figured that one might have made it in, but it comes off very antagonistic. That wasn't actually the intention. The idea behind me saying that about like how are they going to, with the way that they're dressed, how are they going to come forth and say, like what makes traditional clothing and like what makes it manly clothing and stuff is super strange. And we'll kind of talk more about that as the video goes on about why I think that this traditional thing is really confusing and doesn't make much sense when you look at it for what it is. I mean, for example, I can't remember his name. It's a title. It's like Mr. 1450 or something like that. But look at him. He's wearing, sunglasses, a hat, and a Nike hoodie. We got this guy who's like kind of like a bomber blazer thing. This guy in plaid. Let me actually bump this up. I don't know why it's at 720. The thing about the fashion, they're not all adhering to like a traditional standard. And you'll see that as we go and see more of these guys, is that none of them have like a traditional uniform or anything. So the idea of being like, oh no, skirts are too feminine, skirts are too different, that's not okay, is really strange when none of you really have like a coherent adhering to any kind of guidelines amongst yourselves. So the idea of like pushing that on others doesn't make much sense to me at all. But so that's just something that I always, that was why I said that. I didn't say it to like make fun of what they're wearing or anything. It was more so just about the fact that none of them are, not all of them at least, are adhering to what most people would consider our traditional clothes. So the idea of being like, oh, a skirt isn't traditional. I also don't think necessarily that a hoodie would be considered traditional by certain standards, I guess. Like there's different kind of clothing that they're all wearing. Like there's some people were wearing like skinny jeans, especially. Like that was considered gay back in like 15 years ago. So it just doesn't make any sense to me to try and push skirts as being like a huge issue, when ultimately, I mean, you're all just wearing different things that are societally changing all the time with how people view these clothing. Okay, but we gotta keep moving. We're gonna be here all day.
Yeah, they wear dhoties. They're not wearing skirts because they think they're a woman. Here in America, that's the reason that they're wearing skirts, is because they are trying to project that they are a female or the opposite sex or gender fluidity or any of that, and it's just nonsense. No,
Again, it depends.
That part's really strange to me. It's not like every guy who wears a skirt isn't like transgender. Like some people just want to wear the skirt because it's cool. I don't know if you guys have seen Game of Thrones, but I watched Game of Thrones, and I didn't even realize till like my third rewatch that Jorah wears a skirt during that. And look, I'm sure there's other names for it. You call it whatever you want. We all know what the clothing looks like. It looks like a skirt. And so I realized, like, damn, he's got a great outfit. Like that's a kind of skirt that I would wear. I think that's pretty sick. I'm not really like a skirt wearing guy, but if I were to wear a skirt to battle, I'm like, well, damn, that might give me some fluid movements when I'm stabbing with my sword. And so yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of being like, oh no, everyone who wears a skirt is because they want to be a woman. Every man that wears a skirt is because they want to be a woman. It's also just a silly kind of nonsense notion.
It depends on your intention. It depends on your culture. If your intention is to be feminine, right? Obviously, it's not right.
Obviously, to who gets to dictate that? And Gibran is an interesting guy. I think he's a rapper who goes by Gibberish. He's very interesting, and I don't really, I've seen like very little of this video so far, and obviously I was there, but the most interesting part I'm excited to see is going to be the traditional men, like little caucus that they have. I feel like that's the wrong word. The little meeting they have, because I didn't get to see that aspect in this side, so I'm excited to kind of see more of the inside the minds of the traditional men. Now the thing about Gibran is like, even what he's saying right now is like, come on guys, like I thought we don't want people to tell us what to do. Like how is it that we're going to try and tell other people what to do? And so I think you'll see that throughout the entire video, is that a lot of the conservative guys, they end up having a lot of infighting that the progressives really don't have. I don't think we have any kind of discontent or any kind of arguments or anything throughout our entire experience here. Because we're all just kind of here for the betterment of people. We're not here to control anybody. We just want people to, live and live and let live.
Bro, right? I thought we were all about like the government not interrupting.
When it comes to just masculinity in general, like I'm in the camp of you provide for your wife, you protect her, you should be a pillar. Any sign of like wearing a skirt or something like that, like obviously, bro, like it's not the move.
This is kind of representative of.
I just don't understand it. I don't understand how you're just gonna sit there and say, oh, it's just not good. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that that wearing a skirt necessarily means that you're going to become a bad provider or a bad partner in your relationship. It's just strange. I don't know why they ascribe so much value to what a person wears.
A general idea of what a man is supposed to be in terms of how we dress, how we conduct ourselves in public. I think most men look at what a man is supposed to dress like and look at that and see, well, now I have to justify the difference between that and me.
Clothing is not gendered. We make it gendered. Anything that we're wearing could be a fucking woman's whatever. So we just put titles on things.
So great.
I got a feeling nobody over there is going to have any argument against any one of us.
The progressive men are going to say...
I mean, that's the thing about it, is that what is the argument? It's just people should wear what they want to wear. There's no complicated aspect to it. The idea that, society hasn't evolved and changed over time to have people wear different things is just ridiculous. T-shirts weren't really all the rage until like 50 years ago. Not many men were wearing T-shirts out and about. It was all button downs, and so I don't get it. I don't get the rooted down in like, oh, we used to do it like this, so we got to keep doing it like this. It's just never made any sense to me, and it still doesn't. Okay, let's hear what Aldo thinks the traditional men are going to say.
It doesn't matter what you wear. You can wear any dress, you can wear a skirt, you can wear this. In the same vein, they would say it doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter what religion you speak. And as traditional men, we disagree with that. We want to have a cohesive society that we speak similar things, we believe similar things, we have a sense of community in all of the things that we wear. What they're
you're saying is actually the anti-social stance, where everybody does what they want and nobody has a sense of community. So we need to hit on that. Whoever speaks, not just about the skirt, because the skirt it's the detail, and that's unimportant.
We are.
What do you mean that we all need to speak the same language? We all need to, well, it was also like have the same religion. We all need to dress the same. Man, you can join your own commune. No one's gonna stop you from finding a bunch of other people that are like you, and buying out a neighborhood. If you want to go live in a neighborhood, no one's gonna stop you, man. That's your life. You want that little societal thing, then go for it. But the idea is that everyone in the world must assimilate to one culture or one kind of way of thinking or one kind of way of dressing. It's oppressive. It's just inherently oppressive. It's oppressive to everybody for individual reasons. It's just, I don't understand it. I really don't. How are you going to enforce that? Just like, you really think that everyone for the rest of their lives is going to, do whatever you tell them to do because you think it's right? It's just, I really don't get it. I really don't grasp it. I don't understand. I don't understand what the end goal is there.
Rooted in some kind of greater faith that defines masculinity, the man as a role. He is under God, he is serving his family, and he is the creator of his society and the perpetuator of said values.
Yo, it's simple, bros. Skirts are for women.
We should also talk about...
Oh, there we go. He solved it. Thanks, man.
What does it look like if it's not socially acceptable? What does that mean? Point out how in practice, if it's not socially acceptable, that means we're shaming people, we're bullying people, we're excluding people, and I don't think anyone agrees that's a good thing.
Who wants to speak? Okay, then I feel comfortable.
It's just ridiculous.
We want to know who wants to speak. I mean, I will. Okay, all in favor? Juma?
Everyone for...
That's all very interesting to look at, like the traditional side of this, because the progressive side, we had Ryan is right there. Ryan's right there, and Ryan really kind of took the lead throughout the whole thing and really kept us organized, and that's something that I really appreciated personally. And so for us, it was a lot more streamlined, a lot more fast to kind of get through these things. Well, I guess I wouldn't say fast, because we'd all kind of try and talk and do our thing, but it was a lot more streamlined and a lot less messy. Like, you can kind of see with the traditional men is that when they're going through and they're doing this, it's very much so kind of just everyone's lashing out, trying to make their thing, make their statement, and try and figure it all out. And then at the end, they're like, okay, who wants to do this? Let's just throw it all in. As opposed to the progressives, which you'll see as we go on, is that we have a very organized structure that we try and adhere throughout. And so it doesn't really speak, I guess, necessarily to a larger point, but it is wild for me personally to go on this set and not be able to see what's going on over there, to look at it and be like, wow, the difference is night and day between like what structure, what mini societies, right? The mini society of progressives and the mini society of traditional people, like what the night and day difference is between the two and how they work together.
Riley, who votes for Riley? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that's already a majority.
One down, guys.
Riley's going up. Now, Riley's a really cool guy, and he's got his great fashion sense. I was a little worried about Riley, not because I thought that he's like bad or he would do bad. Riley to me came off as someone who's speaks from the heart. He's very genuine, very cool guy. Really like him, and I feel like in these situations, if you get the wrong guy, they can try and really pound on you, really kind of pressure you in order to kind of make you fall over, especially when you're not necessarily going in thinking too much about like specific points. Riley was just going in speaking from the heart, and you want to know something? He nails it. Did absolutely incredible, and I'm glad he got picked for this one.
All right, both sides have chosen their speakers, so let's bring forward Juma and Riley. Should it be socially acceptable for men to wear skirts? You've got 8 minutes to find a middle ground between the two of you. Go for it.
Well, I believe that men can wear whatever they want, and pertaining to skirts, particularly, I am a native Hawaiian person. Traditionally in the culture that goes further back than America itself, men wear skirts. Japan, men wear long gowns.
It's not called a skirt though, specifically.
I know, but
something else.
This is the part that I never understood. What does it matter if it's called something else? Like, the idea of the cultural significance of it is the only thing that makes it matter. That's like, if I walked around in a skirt and I said, oh, it's because it's because I'm Hawaiian, or it's because I'm Scottish or whatever, and I'm like, it's a kilt, it's not this. You think that's gonna stop any like rude person from bullying me and just saying that, oh no, you're wearing a skirt? Or do you think they're gonna be like, oh no, respect, I get it. No, I was gonna bully you when I thought that it was a skirt, but now that I know that it's a Scottish kilt, respect. No, that's not how it works, man. The idea of like trying to be like, oh, but it's not called a skirt is, it's just silly. It's not how, that's not thinking fourth dimensionally. We're talking about the real world, not just like semantics on paper. So it's just, I never understood that argument.
Again, it's just different
Like, I'm
cultural
Muslim,
norms.
I wear a thobe sometimes.
Yes, but it's
Like some
cultural
cats in
norms.
the military, I've roomed with guys in the military, and they say like I had to shoot the dude in the dress. So it's like, nah, like, do I take it personal? No.
See, now that is really telling and frankly kind of sad. I'm put on subtitles too, by the way. And frankly kind of sad. Like, you don't think that's messed up? That he's been rooming with military people, and they've been, he says he wears, I believe it's pronounced a thobe, I'm not too sure, because of his religion. And he's saying like, oh, and I room with military people, and they said I'll shoot the guy in the dress, and I don't really know what that means when he says shoot the guy in the dress, but they're calling it a dress, right? And that's exactly what my point is. So do you want people to respect your culture and respect what you do and what you wear, or do you want them to make fun of you and say that you're wearing a dress? I don't understand it. You don't want that in society. You don't want people making fun of one another because of what they choose to wear, and saying that you're less of a man because of what you wear. Calling it a dress is inherently disrespecting the culture that you're saying it's from, right? No, I'm not saying. Sorry, the way I said that was phrased wrong. What I mean is, calling it a dress, and you're saying that has cultural significance to you, then I feel like they're disrespecting you, and you don't want that. Which is why the idea of men being able to wear whatever they want should be a more broad, societally accepted thing. I don't know if societally is a word, but accepted thing, because that way we have less people who are inclined to be rude to you for wearing something that they perceive as feminine, or a dress or a skirt or whatever. We're trying to make a better world where people are less jumpy, less trying to attack everybody all the time for every little thing. And so I don't understand how you can go through that experience and be like, and understand like that's not a cool thing to do. You didn't like that. And just be like, no, but I think that we should keep doing this oppressiveness to everybody. I just don't understand it. I really don't.
That's just according to that group of people, that's what they call it, right? Like, I wouldn't call a kilt a skirt.
Okay.
No, that's a cultural symbol. What a skirt means in today's society is different. But go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
I mean, yeah, like I was saying, traditionally, cultures that go further back, where clothing only has the meaning that we set to it. So, if I someday decide that your skinnier pants are feminine because I got baggier pants, right?
Yeah.
Then I can do I get to ridicule you for that? Do I get to outcast you for that?
Right, so that's actually an incredible point to bring up, because he's also talking about like, theoretically in the future, if that ever happened. Okay, good, I can do that. Sorry. Anyways, theoretically in the future, if that could ever happen, I don't understand. Theoretically in the future, if that happens, but the truth is that this has happened in the past. Like, skinnier pants were considered to be a certain way back in the day. So I mean, obviously, the idea of being like, oh, skinnier pants are feminine, baggier pants are more masculine. That's also like a new thing in society. It's something that we are just evolving and changing and deciding as we go. So I don't remember what his argument is to this, but yeah, I mean, it's just a great example that we're not always adhering to one standard of clothing, and we never will. We're humans. We just naturally progress.
Do I get to ridicule you for that? Do I get to outcast you for that? That's just my question. Again, going back.
So
why is it not socially acceptable?
What it represents is that's femininity, yo. Like there's no question about it. Like, if you're a dude walking around in a black leather skirt, like you're saying a lot. Like, Jaden Smith is one of them cats that was on Vogue. Like, nah, like we've seen what a skirt represents as a man, at least in North American culture and even some Asian cultures. Like, I've been to South Korea. There are a lot of hyper feminine men out there. The only thing that I didn't see in South Korea was cats putting on makeup in the mirror. But for some reason, whenever I would go outside, I see hella cats wearing makeups.
So, there's a lot of things he's kind of talking about with that one. I mean, talking about like Jaden Smith on Vogue and everything, and being like, wearing a skirt is inherently feminine. It's like, sure, I'll give it to you that right now in the year 2025, skirts is viewed as a feminine thing, and I don't know if we're gonna be saying that, 50 years in the future, especially not. I don't think 100 years in the future. I mean, the idea is that society is constantly progressing, man. We're not also, running around in caveman furs or anything. Like we're changing. We're adhering to our new societal standards and adhering to what the society dictates is whatever it is. Things are constantly changing. So yeah, sure. For now, does it represent femininity? Sure. Is there anything wrong with someone expressing their feminine side? No, man. Let them live how they want to live, and no one should be ridiculed for wanting to express that side of them. And then the South Korea thing is very, very strange because like aren't like the most tippity top popular men in South Korea, and even very, very popular in North America, K-pop stars. And K-pop stars are makeuped up all day, every day. K-pop stars are makeup from head to toe. So I don't really know where he's grabbing that from. I really don't. But that is a very strange example to try and pull of being like, oh, South Korea doesn't do makeup, but North America does do makeup on men. And to be like, oh, that's wrong. Again, it's just, I don't understand it.
On makeup in the mirror, but for some reason, whenever I would go outside, I see hella cats wearing makeups, foundation, eyeliner, all that stuff.
So femininity is negative? And for
Which
men
is a great
to express
point.
yeah, but is it okay to express feminine things? What do you think about my nail polish? What do you think about my skinny watch?
Me personally, bro, I ain't rocking like
okay,
that.
that's cool. That's great. But I am. So is there anything wrong with that?
Exactly. Riley's nailing it. Absolutely nailing it. Every time they communicate about these things, Riley he's saying the perfect things because it's true. It's like, I don't care what his preference is. It's his preference. He can wear whatever he wants. You're not going to hear me complaining about whatever he wears, whatever he does. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's cool. Me personally, what I wear, that's actually messed up. I was going to say, me personally, when I wear Riley's sweater, it's a fine sweater actually. I don't mind it so much. But he had a better outfit on earlier, but they made him change, and so I feel a little bad to kind of trying to take a swing there when I don't even mean to. It's a good sweater, but me personally, it's not my favorite kind of sweater, right? And so if I'm like, oh, it's just not my style, I don't really like it. I'm not gonna go around, making fun of him or being rude to him about it. It's just ridiculous. People should do what they want to do because that's what makes a happy, thriving society. And I don't know how that's complicated. I really don't.
That's a feminine trait that maybe you want to exude about yourself.
Okay.
Now, like if we walk down the street, like I may interact with you a little bit differently just because like I see the fact that you're wearing nail polish.
What does that mean? Like,
well,
would you
generally, bro, like whenever cats are like wearing nail polish, they're a little bit more hyper feminine.
Okay.
They may try to hit on you or just other stuff in general.
Okay.
So it's like
we have a lot of moments. I won't lie. We have a lot of moments. Like my hand is in front of my face probably 90% of the video because there are a lot of moments that are head scratchers for certain. The idea that being feminine, or even if you want to take it a step further, if you want to say the idea that being gay means you're constantly looking to hit on people of the same sex, it really hurts my head. And I don't want to be rude, but it's like, man, you're a straight person. You know that you don't constantly hit on every single woman you meet because that's just not how life works. The idea that because you are gay means you hit on men constantly and every single one of them, it's just silly. And I mean, the thing about it is that even if you meet a woman, are you gonna react to them differently? Like if they, just because it's possible that a woman might hit on you, are you gonna treat them differently than you would anybody else? I don't understand that. These are human beings. They all have different ways of being. I can meet a straight guy who's a total weirdo, and I wouldn't want to interact with them as much, But it doesn't change the fact that it's not because that's not because he's gay. It's not because he's some kind of race or some kind of religion. It's because maybe he's just kind of weird. Maybe I saw him talking to somebody and he said some weird thing, and I was like, okay, well, that's a strange thing. Maybe I want to interact with him differently based off of actions that I've seen him take, rather than just clothing that he's wearing, because that is not indicative of you being a good person or a bad person, or you being someone who's going to hit on someone or not. It's just that nail polish has nothing to do with sexuality. It has nothing to do with your proclivity to go and lay game on anybody. I just don't understand it.
So you're afraid? I mean,
no, I'm not afraid.
Even outward expression of femininity does not define sexuality. I mean, like, there's a lot of straight guys out there, a lot of, people who are in, like, emo punk scene wearing black nail polish for fun. People who wear lots of rings, completely straight, and it
but
doesn't
it's
matter.
the representation, though, of what that
What
means.
does that mean, though?
So, like, a guy wearing, like, he's obviously counterculture, right? Like, if he's, like, the emo punk kind of guy. Also, like, borderline, like, devil worship at times.
Devil worship?
Yeah, like...
Every time I think back to that line, it is so strange how some people like ascribe clothing to like personality in the sense that like what you will do in your personal life. Like I don't understand that. If you see someone wearing nail polish or like punk rock outfits, that means that you think they're worshiping the devil at their home. Of all things, you think that that's what they're doing? I just don't understand it. The idea that what you wear dictates what you do, all of your actions. It's just I'll never wrap my head around that. I really don't think I'll ever wrap my head around that.
That can be clearly associated with it with a pentagram. A skirt isn't indicative of what a masculine man should represent in today's society. We got a lot of over feminization of a lot of guys. Like being a solid man that your wife can look to, or whoever that you're taking care of can look to and be like, yo, that's my pillar. Like if something going wrong in my life, they got me. And if you're walking around wearing a skirt, bro, like, okay, there might be cats that can walk around wear a skirt and they solid to the people that they can take care of, right? But the exception isn't the rule. Most cats walking around in a skirt, bro, they not super breaded up. They're just cats trying to express themselves sexually because they've given up on the financial part.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people who express like feminine
it's easier,
traits, like
it's easier to be broke.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who express feminine traits, and have been, in the media for wearing skirts. Harry Styles is the biggest example. You think he's not breaded up? You think Young Thug is not breaded up? Like people like that?
Yeah, but at what cost though? Like now.
All right, real quick, yeah. The idea that wearing a skirt, you're only wearing a skirt because you're too broke. I like the idea is that you're too broke to afford pants, and that's why you wear a skirt. It's so goofy. It's like, no, these guys wear skirts because they these guys wearing skirts because they can't make money. They know they can't make money in their life, and so that's why they've chosen to wear skirts. Is so. Oh, let's just keep going.
Now you're starting to tap into the fact of like, nah, like it's pretty obvious and it's out in the open now that a lot of these rappers, a lot of these cats grabbing ankles. These same dudes that wear skirts are the same ones that were popping up at the Diddy parties. They holding hands with Diddy, calling him daddy.
I mean, again,
like,
this kind of just.
Yeah, seeing all the progressives together. Oh my gosh. Okay. Man, I don't know how to tell them that these Diddy parties had a lot of terrible things happen to women. Being at a Diddy party certainly did not mean you were gay, and it most certainly did not mean that you were just wearing skirts, and that's why you're at the Diddy party. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand this ascription to clothing and actions, and I just don't get it. It makes me sad. It really does.
Goes back to the argument that a lot of people try to push
that's feminization.
That gay people are groomers, and
then on top of that, bro, like I get it, bro. Like I get, like it's a cool piece of clothing. Like my pops, he owned a fashion label. He did it in the '90s, where he exclusively designed women's clothing out of Egyptian silk. I totally get it. From a fashion perspective, for a woman, like bro, it's amazing. Like bro, I think a woman looks good in a maxi skirt. But I'm saying I don't think a dude should be walking around rocking that.
And I guess my question to you to dig deeper is, should this be, mandated? Should you, bully people who are wearing skirts?
It shouldn't be open, common practice being taught to kids like, hey, bro.
Like, he's wearing bleached hair, right? His hair is bleached. I don't think that was a thing. I don't think people were cool with that back in the day. I think that if anyone was saying that I think there were a lot of times where men were saying if you dye your hair or you bleach your hair, well, that's a womanly thing to do. It just feels like we're having old school conversations in the new age, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, obviously we're progressing. Obviously, I mean, look at the fashion is what I'm saying. Look at what he's wearing, right? Look at his, again, like you said, skinnier pants, like joggers, right? Look at what this guy is wearing. Look at what this guy is wearing. Look at what this guy's wearing. Look at what this guy's wearing, what this guy's wearing. It's all different. None of it is all one-to-one. None of it all follows some kind of like traditional structure. Everyone expresses themselves differently. And you can see that there's some people who really want to express themselves in certain ways. And it's not necessarily masculine or feminine. It just is what it is. I mean, Greg over here, he decided to wear the Gru scarf because he knew that people were calling him Gru, and you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to express that he hears you, and that's his purpose for wearing the Gru scarf. It's not because he's cold. It's just he wants to let you know that he hears you. And so yeah, the idea of clothing, just ascribing that to different actions that people take or different quality of people, I just don't understand it.
Go to school wearing a skirt. Like, I'll tell you right now, like the time me growing up in East Oakland, you go to school wearing a skirt, it's gonna be rough for you.
I mean, I'm not going to
Like, it's gonna
disagree
be
with
real
you on
rough.
that, but we should break down that stigma of people having to be scared of what they
Not scared,
choose to
not
wear.
scared.
No, because if, like you said, I should be scared coming, to where you're saying wearing a skirt or feminine attire or accessories or anything like that. So should people have to fear for self-expression?
So I'll explain to you this, right? Like, I was a shooting specialist at Banana Republic for almost 2 years, right? And like, dude, like I see a whole bunch of cats walk in there, different arrays, different budgets, you know what I'm saying? And I'm helping them get to where they gotta get. More than likely, man, like the cats that I saw wearing skirts, man, those ain't the kind of guys that like, the cat like me would want to rock with.
That's
like
fine.
the cats that I
You don't
rock
have to
with,
like
they're solid
everybody,
through and
man.
through. Like, I'm a business owner. I'm also a professional fighter. So it's like, nah, bro, like just that kind of energy, it's not conducive for me to be around.
That's fine.
Because I
No
need to
one's telling you to
cultivate
be
a certain
around
kind of mindset, a certain kind of atmosphere around myself in order to achieve what I believe is peak to what I need to be.
No one is gonna force you to hang out with a bunch of skirt wearers, man. You can hang out with whoever you want. Live your life, be happy. That is what the progressive people are here to advocate for, and it's that simple.
Okay, so Riley, based on kind of what you're hearing coming from Juma, what do you think is a middle ground statement that you think you could both agree on, or that you want him to agree on?
I would like for you to agree on that men should be able to express themselves. In fact, anybody should be able to express themselves however they want, skirt, nail polish, whatever, and that it should be.
We're focused on
Okay,
skirt,
skirt.
not the nail polish.
Men should be able to wear a skirt, and it can have a positive stigma around it if they so decide.
If culturally they come from a culture in Muslim tradition, right? There's this wrap that you
No,
can
no,
wrap
I'm not even
around
talking
your
about that.
waist. Some people would call that a skirt. So like that kind of cultural thing, no problem. But we're talking about North American problems. We're not talking about every other place.
So what's the
There
middle
shouldn't
ground?
be a
that you
problem.
think?
The
Why
middle
would you
ground
want
is
to?
culturally, if that's where your family is from, rep where your family from. Rep your culture, rep your set, whatever it is, right? But you as a man, if that's something that you want to do, bro, by all means, bro, just not that close to me, though. It's good.
Well, I disagree. I think that men should be able to express themselves however they want, and that's it. I don't think there should be any, especially clothes.
But what I'm hearing is, even if you don't agree that it should be, that you think it's socially acceptable, I have heard you say that men should be allowed to wear skirts if that's how they want it, if that's what they want to do.
If that's what bro wants to do, by all means. But I'm saying from like a cultural, religious perspective, it's not conducive to what a good nation trying to bring stronger individuals into the world should be doing.
See, there's like a.
See, I don't understand it. I don't really understand the idea behind saying like, oh, as a strong culture, if you want to introduce that to society. But like, I mean, if you're going to talk about North American culture, I don't know if they're going to be very friendly to the religion thing either. Is that if you're bringing outside religion and you're saying that you're walking in wearing a specific garb from your religion, and you just think that people are just going to be cool with that, you might want to take a look around, man. The idea of exclusionary practices in society based off of anything like that, I don't think that builds a strong society. I think that builds an exclusionary one that is just cruel and not good for the people who are living in the society.
There's a background to this. It's not because you just don't like the clothes, right? What do you think? Like, I don't understand that you think it makes someone less of a man, less masculine, and that in turn makes them weaker for wearing a skirt.
In North American culture, I do not believe that it's acceptable for a man to wear a skirt. I'm not going to find a middle ground in between on that.
I'd like to propose that it's okay for a man to wear whatever he chooses.
If that's what you believe, I respect you enough to agree with you on that part. But me personally, like you as an individual, if you want to do that, by all means, bruh. But nah, not for North American culture. It means something different here.
So is that you saying that that doesn't work as a middle ground statement?
No, we're not going to find a middle ground.
Okay. I think we can leave it at that. We gave it a good try.
And
Shake
we're gonna
hands
leave
and
it
let's
at
start.
that.
let's
No middle ground,
Handle
which
your
is
business.
it's sad to see because I don't think that they're in two separate universes on this. Because even he's saying in his personal experience, his personal life, he's like, yeah, do what you want to do. Then he has like some other aspects, some other side of him that's saying, but culturally in North American culture, no, don't do what you want to do. So I feel like it's like two wolves fighting inside him on how to handle that situation, and so it's sad because I really do think that there's a middle ground to be had. I'm sure of it, at least in his heart. I think that in his heart he doesn't care as much as he's fighting for it. I really don't understand.
We did not find a middle ground in that last prompt, but thank you to Juma and Riley for giving it a try. We're going to move on to our next prompt, which is, does society need more trad wives or girl bosses?
Who can define these terms?
Oh, this will be something. So I've seen the first section, that little part, and I've seen obviously my own part. I was there for it, but the rest of these I haven't seen yet. So I'm very excited to take a look and see what these conversations were like, and see how this goes.
Okay, so a girl boss
Oh,
is
sorry.
like.
When I say I haven't seen it, I was there for them obviously, but I mean more so, especially on the traditional inside circle. I want to see what their conversations were like.
Or girl bosses?
Who can define these terms?
Okay, so a girl boss is like a girl who like slays the house. She's independent, bro. She's her own boss. You know, she don't need a man.
And the trad wife is what? Traditional.
Is like a woman who's like, I gotta cook and clean for my husband.
Girl boss doesn't necessarily mean going out and being a CEO or doing whatever. It's just an empowerment of doing what they want to do.
Our lighting here is terrible. I know that they're not used to the 25 men or the 25 people structure, and so that's why none of this is really lit for this specific kind of video. But when I look at it, I'm like, my word, he's in blackness, man. I can't see him. He is not there. That's so funny.
Being able to choose that, you know, the best choice for that relationship is to stay at home and take care of a kid, whether that's the man or the woman or whoever in the partnership, or to go and work.
I don't care if she's traditional or trad. She's got to follow my program and my rule as a man. And
well, I don't know what to tell you, man, but what you just said was, I don't care if she's traditional or trad. I just need her to be traditional and trad.
what I'm saying is she can go and be a boss at the job, but when she comes home, she's gonna take that shirt or hat off, and she's gonna follow my lead and follow what I have to say, because I'm the man. She's
Okay, I guess it's kind of different. I don't think it's that much better, but I guess it's kind of different.
got my name. She's got my ring. She's under my roof.
But it's all respect.
No, yeah, of course. As far as the traditional wives, I mean, my wife kind of fits that mold. She does work from home, but I was in the military for.
Yeah, working from home does not make you traditional. Sorry. I mean, working as a woman just doesn't make you traditional. That's not the tradition. The tradition is that you stay at home and you take care of the house, you take care of the family, and the man works, makes enough money to support you both. That's traditional. Your wife is working. She is simply not a traditional wife. Now, this actually brings up a much more important point that I think we're going to get to as the video progresses, which is that traditional men now, they're not really traditional. They're like a neo-traditional. It's a whole new kind of traditional where, like I said, different style of clothes and different kinds of ways of thinking. Because the truth is that, yeah, in today's society, it's decently hard to have a traditional life, not because like anyone's forcing you to like be gay or have a progressive wife or anything. It's because it's just hard economically. These are just hard economic times for the generations that are growing into this. So ultimately, having a traditional lifestyle is much more detrimented due to the economy, more so than it does like any kind of like regulation or any kind of forcing to be progressive. But the idea is still sound. If you want to call yourself traditional, your wife should not be working. End of sentence. You do not have a traditional wife if she is working. This is neo-traditional. This is essentially you've now accidentally stumbled into being progressive because that's just how it is. Traditionally speaking, women didn't work. Now they are working, and that's just how it is.
Over a decade, and so I was the sole provider, and she would stay at home and raise her kids, and that's just really worked for us. So I also have a 16-year-old daughter that I'm also.
Well, of course, it really works for you because she's working, you're working. You two are equally contributing. It sounds like
raising to be a traditional
Live Oak Can we get a
such a strange thing to say. To be like, I'm raising my daughter to be a traditional wife. The idea of anybody raising their daughter to be someone else's wife is strange to me. You should be raising your daughter to, live her life and do what she wants to do, not adhere to any kind of thing from anybody else. I wouldn't raise my daughter to go into a job that I really like or something. I wouldn't raise my daughter to be in a specific kind of relationship or something. She's a grown woman, or she'll be a grown woman one day. I don't have a daughter, but when I do have a daughter, she'll be a grown woman one day, and she'll make her own decisions. She'll do what makes her happy. Whatever makes her happy may not make me happy, but it's her life. It's not my life.
A show of hands of folks who think they're a good fit for this.
1, 2, 3.
A lot of times, whether a woman should be a stay-at-home wife or whether she can work and do other things in society is kind of a cloaked sexist argument. And so I think that whether or not a man or a woman in a relationship, who's the stay-at-home parent, who's working, should be a function of the individuals and should not be a function of us doing these, gender role-based prescriptions.
I'm caught between him and him, but the most important question for me is, are you paying all the bills for your home?
The girl bosses have been
Why didn't they show the answer to that? Because it's no. If his wife is working, no. Right? Because I'm pretty sure he's pointing to the guy in the blue jacket. Spoiler alert, the guy in the blue jacket is the one who got picked for this. So, I don't know why they show that question but not show the answer, because the answer is no.
The most important question for me is, are you paying all the bills for your home?
The girl bosses have been detrimental to society and how tradwives have actually helped build the family and through homemaking raised up the kids instead of them going out to the public school system or being raised by strangers because the girl bosses were too busy working to care about their kids.
Traditional wives.
The husbands are fathers of the kids too. The husbands are also the kids' parents. Have you ever considered working together? I understand the idea of absent parents, definitely are going to be detrimental to the kids. I don't understand the idea of it needs to be the woman's responsibility to be the one to take care of the kids. This is a partnership, which honestly my section talks about later. But I just don't understand it. I really don't get that idea of they need to be home taking care of the kids. Why don't you get to be at home taking care of the kids? Me personally, shoot, I love being at home. I take care of the kids at home. It's just, I just don't understand. I really don't. There's no rule that dictates that women do this, men do that, and there's no reason that a woman can't go and live her life and have a thriving career. I know women who enjoy their careers. They're very happy in their careers. Something, they also like relationships. They're very happy in their relationships. I feel like if you take away one or the other, they're going to be unhappy. They love their relationship. They love their career. That's just part of existing. You have things that you love to do, and you do them, and you experience them. The idea is that you can only have one or the other, especially in a partnership. It's messed up. Telling your partner you have to give up one of the things you love. It's just messed up.
Is outdated. We find that women who have leadership roles do have higher success, arguably, than men because they get people to work together better, I feel. Men, it's about competition.
In modern society, most physicians are women, most lawyers in America are women, the most educated people out of men and women are women.
Why am I always looking at everybody like that? I always feel like I'm inquisitively studying every single person when I see my dumb face just looking.
They attend school at higher rates, they graduate at higher rates.
The capability women have to raise children, the innate ability that my mother has, the connection she has with me, is something that is very important, and I feel like girl bosses lack that.
If you're gonna
I don't. My mother has a connection with me as well. So does my father. I don't think that there's an innate thing that says that my mother needs to stay home and take care of me. My father needs to go out and work the mines. You know, like I feel like that comes way more from the way that you were chosen to be upbringed. Is that if my mom would have chosen to work and my dad would have chosen to stay home, I probably would have a more closer relationship with my father because I had spent more time with my father, right? As opposed to the other way around, where the only reason I think he feels as though he and his mother have this like innate connection and love for one another that I guess he's kind of implying he doesn't have with his father is because you got to spend more time with your mother. It's not because she is a woman, it's because you spent more time with her, because society dictated essentially that the most normal thing is that your mom stays at home, takes care of you, and your dad goes and works the mines. And I feel like that part is always kind of missing the real world connection for like this kind of fantasy idea of that men and women are born to serve specific roles in a society. When I mean society is fairly new. We've been making a lot of new societies as we've gone along. It's not like we are just we were born in the mud. Okay, we were born in the mud and we learned to evolve from the mud. You know, no one was saying, you know, we weren't born being like, okay, time to go work the mines. You go home with the kids. This is not how it worked, how it was. We've all just kind of decided what to do as time's gone on, especially, you know, starting off with where might is right back in the ye olden times. Then yeah, sure, you know, more men, majority of men are more physically stronger than the majority of women. And so that's just kind of how the cookie crumbled. But I mean, we're living in different times now. We are no longer, you know, savages that think that brute force is the way to get everything done. We've evolved, and I personally think that's a good thing.
I'm gonna say that the woman's duty is to serve the man. Say it just as much conviction that it's the man's job to serve the woman.
Isn't the question we need more trad wives versus girl boss? Like that's the question, right? And so like I would advocate for that. You know.
Let's just vote.
How much time? I know
Anthony, sure.
You know, Anthony, he's got like the traditional mustache, but that's like the only thing, right? Because his shirt, he's not a traditional shirt. It's just some random plaid shirt. Okay, maybe it's a traditional shirt if he only wore the shirt, but the man's wearing a blue blazer. And it's really confusing me because the progressives were the ones supposed to wear blue. How do we end up here?
I would advocate for that. You know.
Let's just vote.
How much time? I know
Anthony, sure.
Anthony. Raise your hand for Anthony. Steve, vote for Steve? 1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna vote for myself. If that's
Well,
okay.
all right. Well, I'm gonna assume everybody's voting for themselves. Votes for Jay. 1, 2.
I can't remember. Oh, I guess I did vote for someone. I voted for Jay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, there we go. It's yours.
The Greg.
Both sides have chosen a
I don't know who I
speaker to
voted for.
debate this prompt. So let's bring forward Anthony.
I think Greg was going to do great. I think I believed in Greg. As for how he did, I think he did really well. Because, I mean, obviously, just kind of, you know, the world is on his side. The way the world exists is on Greg's side. But I will say there is one important note that Greg doesn't hit throughout the thing, which, you know, when you're in these situations and you're face-to-face talking to someone, it's not that easy. It's not that simple to remember everything and to kind of go over everything as new information is coming up. The same thing happened to me. But we'll get to that. Like, Greg still does incredible with his Guru scarf on and everything.
Anthony, the question was, does society need more trad wives or girl bosses? I'll let you take it from here.
I definitely think that society needs more trad wives. Putting women in the workplace is actually a failed feminist movement, which minimized wages for men, and then.
From 1990 to 2020, men aged 40 to 59 experienced a decline in real median annual earnings, while earnings increased slightly for men aged 20 to 39. However, the Congressional Research Service cited a declining real minimum wage and decreasing unionization rates for slowing wage growth, not more women entering the workforce. Yeah, I don't see how women entering the workforce equals less wages for men. Maybe I'm dumb, but I can't even follow his made-up logic. And I feel like that would be easier to do than like real logic sometimes. But the idea of more women entering the workforce, I mean, that's just more people to work. What's that have to do with like less wages? I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb. But yeah, so the fact check says otherwise at least, and that makes the most sense to me. Is that I think yeah, everyone across the board is getting screwed, my man. Men, women, everyone. It's not because women enter the workforce, man. There's a lot of more real political problems than trad wives and girl bosses.
And it gave the government free control over the children, right, through a public education system. And I think that that's also why we have a lack of
Damn, again? The first public schools in America were started by Puritans well before the country's founding by 1870. 78% of children aged 5 to 14 were enrolled in public schools. The modern feminism wave didn't start until a century later.
masculinity in society. So
Okay. Yeah. So there's 3 claims there. There was the government controlling the children.
That's not what I said.
And then the wages being stolen from.
Okay. So they kind of blew past it in the edit. That was everyone had a good hard laugh at that. They, like I said, they edited it out because I think there was more to what he said, and that part also got cut out. But he was saying something along the lines, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe he was saying something along the lines about public schooling being a thing that is controlling women and children, and that's where we got that from.
For men.
But it was very funny at the time.
Oh, sorry. How did you phrase it?
No, you said it was like minimizing wages for men.
Minimize it. Okay, yeah, sorry. Causing an impact on men. And then what was the first one?
It was moving women to the workforce.
Moving women. Okay, yeah. So there is no statistically significant difference between the cognitive abilities of men and women.
Okay. Stanford medical professor found that men and women do have different cognitive abilities, but that doesn't mean one sex is smarter than the other. Women have superior reading comprehension and writing ability, while men can better juggle items and working memory, among other differences. Again, this is just something that is like, I mean, studies are studies, and I'm sure there are many that talk about many different things, and yeah, I mean, I think that's the truth, is that men and women aren't exactly the same. I mean, you could look at different kinds of reasons for that, whether it be physical or it be this, but the idea remains the same, that all individuals are different. My memory is terrible. If you ever seen Memento, I'm like one step removed from the guy in Memento, all right? And apparently, according to the test, I should have better memory. I don't. Or maybe I just have bad reading comprehension. Oh, women have better reading comprehension. So maybe they're really right. I don't know. But the point is this, is that everyone's different. The idea of just ascribing this casting a large net of being like, oh no, women have bad cognitive abilities and men have good cognitive abilities for workplaces. I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. It's just, it's a silly notion, I'm afraid.
You can obviously find an outlier study or two that says something else.
Sure.
And so
that's not what we're debating, though.
Well, no, but I'm building to my point.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that context, I think we should have a society that empowers men and women equally to pursue whatever works best for them and in their relationship. Like, for example, we have friends who are married, man and woman, and they are both in healthcare, and they both take turns working. Like, dad will work one day and mom will work the other day. And I think it's awesome if we have career opportunities. We have things like, affordable childcare, paid family leave, anything in society that supports people to make the decision that works best for their family, I think is positive. And I think if we had better options for people to pursue what works for them individually, we would have, as the prompt described it, more girl bosses.
But I think your argument is that if only we were to put women in workplaces, which no one's debating that they shouldn't be. The question is not, should we restrict women from doing it? It should be, should we have more trad wives, right? And so my argument is that there are studies that show that having, and I can speak personally, I've been married for close to 20 years. I was in the military for a little bit over a decade. I worked, I provided. That's worked for me. That's worked for my parents. That's worked for my grandparents. That's why we're traditional. We carry down these traditions from family to family. And so we see that our children are thriving. I see that my children have a mother at home that loves them and is able to be with them for their school events or for, sporting, things like that.
Where are you? You think it's good that you're gone? And again, we're going to get to it in a little bit, I suppose. But his wife is still working from home. It's just point blank not traditional. I don't know how you reconcile with that.
And it's worked for us. So, the question is, do we need more girl bosses? Do we need more?
She's not a trad wife. You don't have a trad wife. That's why it works for you, because she's working. She's working. But you're working. So yeah, man, you just described a progressive relationship where a man and a woman are working. I don't know what to tell you. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
More women away from their children. And I just don't think that's what we need more of.
What about men, man? I feel like a man should be for their child too. I mean, shoot, if I had a soccer game, I want my mom and my dad to be there. I don't want to just have one or the other. It's like, sorry, son, society dictated that it's your mother that has to spend time with you, and it's me that has to go work in the mines. Like, what are you talking about, man? I want my dad there, I want my mother there, as much as I can. It's not easy to, but dang, we try and make it work. I don't know what to tell you.
So if the woman is away from, it's just one parent's at home and one parent's at work, right? That's kind of what we're describing. It's just, so what is the issue with a man being the stay-at-home parent?
There you go.
Well, I just don't think that's the role of a man. Here's the reality. My wife and I both work from home. I'm out in the field a lot.
It's not traditional.
Because I'm an independent journalist, so I do travel a lot more for work.
Right.
But we both work from home, and that's actually great too, because then I also get to partake in a lot of the things that we do. So if like my kid has a sporting event 2 p.m., I'm not stuck in the office. I'm able to do that. But
so there you go. There's no impeding factor from work necessarily. Apparently, you guys have flexible jobs. That's great. There's no problem here. You have a very progressive relationship at that point. If you're both working and you're both able to make it to your children's stuff, you're not stuck in the office. You're not stuck in the mines. Well, congratulations, man. You got a great relationship. It's not because you stuck to the traditional way of doing it. It's just because you're just doing it in a way that means that you and your partner get to spend time together, and you and your partner get to spend time with your kids. That's the dream. It's nothing to do with whether you are traditional or progressive. It has everything to do with the fact that you seem to just have gotten good jobs. You can't really do that. If you're working at a bad job, pays you badly, gives you no time off, well, then you're kind of screwed. Which again gets to like the real societal problems that we have that are infinitely more important than answering the question about society needing trad wives and girl bosses.
Going back in where I was deployed for months at a time and having my wife stay at home, I think that it would have been detrimental that not only do my kids have a deployed parent, but they also have a mother that's stuck at work 8 to 5.
Oh, definitely. I think that I think we're not necessarily disagreeing there. So what you're describing is, in your situation, it made the most sense to have your wife be a trad wife, right? I'm a millennial.
Again, you know what? I'll give that to Greg, I guess. I guess he doesn't really know the word trad wife, and so that's why he's having a hard time really nailing in the fact, like, listen, that is not a trad wife. He does not have a trad wife. So you're just operating off of a faulty premise, and that's what makes me. That's the only part that I was upset about, is that that's such a very easy, just kind of nail the hit on the head to be like, hey, listen, man, what you're saying is just not how you're living.
I feel silly saying trad wife. It's not my verbiage. Yeah. Would you agree that it makes sense for us to have those cases where it might make more sense for there to be a girl boss to allowed to happen? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Sure. Like I think what your argument is that we probably live in a society where women also have to work, and so what I'm saying is, yes, I have a personal bias of why my wife should stay at home, but also there's studies to show that women that tend to stay at home with children tend to have a happier family.
Okay, Harvard research study found children of working moms grow up to be just as happy as children of stay-at-home moms. Oh damn. According to 2014, a Pew Research study, stay-at-home married mothers are 5 times more likely to live in poverty than married mothers who work. Damn! I didn't even know that's that bad. 5 times more likely than mothers who work? Does it make sense? Absolutely. Is it still sad? Yeah, man. I wish we lived in a society that does allow a one partner to work and the other one not to work. Not because I want some kind of traditional life, but because that's a good society. That's a good way of living where a man and woman can spend more time with their children, spend more time with one another. Fantastic. I don't think it falls to either the man or the woman to work or not work. I would just like it to be where one person can take care of a whole family. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm nuts. I don't know.
They tend to be able to have less divorce rates, for example, as opposed to two people that are usually always at work and they rarely see each other, they rarely spend time with their kids. There's also some studies that show that kids do better in the long.
Got another one. 2010 analysis of 69 studies found early maternal employment is not significantly associated with children's later achievement and behavior outcomes. Early maternal employment. About their mom being employed at an early age? 69 studies. Oh, damn. Okay.
Long run, when they have a parent that stays at home, for example.
What's interesting is regarding studies on stay-at-home parenting, on the census, an at-home dad is defined as somebody who has not been in the workforce and not made money over the past 52-week period, over the past year. And so when you look at studies of stay-at-home dads, you miss out on things like, as you mentioned, people who do remote work or people who work part-time. And so I am not as confident as you are in the sort of evidence base for this claim that, you know, stay-at-home dads are somehow detrimental compared to stay-at-home moms. I believe it was the American Psychological Association put out a statement on this where they said that as long as it's a stable, loving household, that's the most, you know, that's kind of the highest bar you have.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'm not, you know, no big city lawyer or anything or some, you know, big city scientist, but in my mind, just having a good, happy family and a good, stable family is infinitely more important than if the man is going out and working and the woman is staying home. I will take that every day. I'll take a happy family over a traditional family every day of the week.
But so I'm just gonna pause you because we're out of time. So I want to push you both towards offering a statement that you think both of you would agree on regarding trad wives and girl bosses.
Would you agree that in a circumstance where it makes the most sense for that family to have a girl boss, we should facilitate that?
I don't agree with that just because what you're almost claiming is that the family can only be successful if the woman is a girl boss.
Oh no, that's not what I meant to claim at all. I must have so I'm just trying to say, should we look at people as individuals and look at individual circumstances and then have people do what makes the most sense for their individual circumstances instead of making these broad kind of gender-based prescriptions where it's like, you're a woman, so you should do this, you are a man, or as you do in your own life. It sounds like your situation is not exactly a traditional situation because you are considering your personal circumstances, your personal strengths.
But also studies back that, right? So that's what I was saying, less divorce rates. And then if you want to get into like the intricacies, like, you know, a family that goes to a church every single week has a 50% less chance of getting divorced, right? So it's just a little,
interesting,
I guess, difficult to come to the realization.
I mean,
of, like,
I don't think it's because, like, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's one-to-one with the idea that, you know, having a faith and having a religion is inherently like a really good thing for a family and that's what keeps them together. I think, you know, just that means that these families have more time to spend together and they do spend that time together. I think that's a lot easier thing to kind of track through like church attendance. I guess I don't know where else that kind of would be tracked at, like Chuck E. Cheese. I'll make a claim right now, you know, maybe if we can track the Chuck E. Cheese data, that if we see how many families go to Chuck E. Cheese, you know, once a month or something, are less likely to be divorced, I bet you that's probably 50% less likely than families that don't go to Chuck E. Cheese every month. Because that means you got money to go to Chuck E. Cheese. That means you got time to spend together. It means that you just had a happy relationship. So I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just saying. I don't know.
It's only if a girl boss was there, right? Because I mean, that is that question after us. Should we have more girl bosses? Not should we allow women to work, which is part of lawful, you know, way of doing things. So I guess I'm just kind of having a hard time with that middle ground.
Yeah, what would yours be?
I think the conversation I've had with a lot of people, progressive men, is that they think that traditional men are just strictly against women working, period. And that's just not my view. I think that the rights are there. My wife works, right?
Yeah, man. It's not traditional.
But she works from home. And it doesn't really interrupt the household, you know?
I think I have an idea. So what about we should make it easier for a family to have a girl boss if that works good for the family. Does that make sense?
let's flip it and let's make society easier so that the male can work and provide for his family on just a sole income without having to put two working parents and seeing their children off.
You know what encompasses both of those?
Sure.
So what I'm hearing is that we both have different ideas.
All right. Okay, so what happened there is essentially they're trying to work their way towards a middle ground, and now sometimes middle grounds go almost as long as like the actual conversation, because a lot of us are really attempting to try and reach across the aisle to make this happen. So what you witnessed right there was it not coming and working very smoothly, and so they had that back and forth for a good little bit, and the director, she's trying to make sure these middle grounds are cohesive and working, and that they're good middle grounds, and that they're not easy middle grounds, right? Because they do end up on a middle ground at a certain point where they're like, yeah, society should make it so that way one person can work in a household, but the prompt is, does society need more trad wives or girl bosses? So it just has nothing to do with it. It's just like, yeah, everyone's going to agree that society should be improved economically. No one's going to disagree with that. And so they cut out that whole kind of part about like trying to make a middle ground work. And now we're just skipping to like, okay, they found a statement that they both are okay with. And then now Greg has to introduce that statement into the conversation.
About what works best for a family. So maybe a middle ground statement would be, we should structure society in terms of our policies, our safety nets, things like that. So whatever works best for a family is available to that family.
Oh, never mind. I just explained. Never mind. He's doing it now. I skipped a step.
Whether that's a trad wife or a girl boss in the household.
Let me just let's empower families to do what's best for them.
Yeah.
It's a little soft. I think we need to address, like the role of women, which is what this prompt is saying.
I mean, hearing all 7 minutes of you, it's just, I wasn't convinced of like why we need girl bosses, right?
Right.
I listened to statistics.
That's why we
and
make
things that
individual
work,
decisions.
I mean,
I'm not
they're
convinced
women
of
that exist.
anything about your life, but
They can choose whatever they want to
even
do.
though studies show like it's better for the household.
So my opinion is that we should trust 2 adult people to make a decision about what
That's just very nuanced, though. It's just it can mean anything, right? Oh, we should allow 2 parents to just do drugs all day because it's better for them.
Okay.
So it's just too nuanced. What I would say is we can live in a society where I guess girl bosses can thrive legally,
You're a girl
and
boss,
trad
aren't you?
wives can also
Nah, she's
thrive
not.
legally.
She's a
I just
stay-at-home.
think
She's a
girl
trad
boss
cat.
can already thrive. It's harder for a woman to become a trad wife than it is for a woman in today's day and
we could
age
do both.
with the current policies to become a girl boss.
What is a version of it you would be able to agree with?
That we need more trad wives.
You're not giving us anything.
No.
That was pretty great.
I'm working pretty hard here.
I think we'll just have to. We didn't find a middle ground
Damn.
statement for this
I didn't
one.
realize we didn't find a middle statement for this one either. That's crazy. That's nuts. I like how his middle ground statement was, I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, man. This is great teamwork.
We didn't come to an agreement, but I like your facial hair.
Thank you. I like your groove.
All right, nice to meet you, man.
Very nice meeting you.
Yeah,
All right,
and thanks
take
for your
care, bro.
service.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for
we gotta be
powering the
ethical.
fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the
I
bar
gotta keep
on
the ad in.
journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Their
Which is
team of
interesting because I've
journalists
heard,
believe
well,
that
I guess actually I
unbiased
probably
news should be
shouldn't
the
bring up
standard,
the
not
competitors,
just
but I've
the
heard of like
exception.
different
So they
companies that do
report down
similar
the middle
things to
with
what
facts,
Straight Arrow News
delivering
does.
news without bias, filter, or spin.
What
Plus,
do you think?
their media mist
Do you like
tool
the video?
allows you to discover news
Do you
that's
like Straight
being
Arrow News?
underreported or not even reported at
Do you
all
not
by
really have
different sides
opinion
of
on any of
mainstream
that?
media. That's why we're so
You just
happy to
wanna
be
be
partnering
fed.
with Straight Arrow News.
You just
The
wanna
work
stay
they're
home
doing gives us a
and do
complete
nothing,
picture
don't you?
of the news straight from
you're
our
just
phones
like
and
me.
tablets with their app. Go to
Man,
san.com/middleground
if I could just stay home all
or click
day
the
with-
link in the
with my
description
cat.
to check it out. By clicking the link, you're not
God,
just supporting this
now
channel.
that's the
You're
society
also
we need to be
supporting a
fighting
group
for.
of journalists that are raising
We
the bar
don't.
on
Talking
news
about girl
and
bosses,
focusing
trad
on
wives,
serving you
bunch of
unbiased,
men
straight facts.
discussing
Thanks
about
again
women.
to Straight Arrow News for
I
partnering
just
with us
wanna
on
go
this
home
episode.
and
Now let's
hang out
get
with
into
you
it.
all day
Thank
long.
you, Greg. Thank you, Anthony. We didn't
That's all
find a
I
middle
wanna
ground in that question, but we're going to move on to our next question, which is, are depressed men weak?
I would definitely say that depressed men are weak. I was heavily depressed. I'm a cancer survivor. And with that came clinical depression, anxiety disorder. I gave up on life. I didn't want to live. And that's because I was weak. Coming out of that, I'm stronger than ever before.
Bless you for that, brother.
Did he just say that he survived cancer? And being depressed about it made him weak? No, man. Cancer really sucks. You can be depressed about the fact you had cancer. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you a person who went through cancer. That's scary. That's depressing. That's sad. Man, you can be depressed. It does not make you weak, man. You're just living. Just do your best to get help. Do your best to get help. Damn. That's sad to hear him say that.
You got through that, but what I'm saying is ultimately the depression part of it is a weak mindset.
Right, yeah.
So that is weak.
Like when your family member dies, like you
Yeah,
definitely have
you should
times,
be sad,
but like you
right.
shouldn't like label yourself as I'm a depressed person. It's like
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
going through like a sad state right
Yeah.
now. Like it's tough times, but you gotta pull through it, and that's what we all agree on. Is that being strong means coming out of that,
Right.
And not
Coming out
like
of it is
because
not-
like killing yourself is the weakest shit to do. That.
It's like, listen, I was a dumb kid. I was a dumb kid who thought I was smart. You know, I was in a dumb, all right pipeline, making me think that I was centrist when I most certainly was not. I was stupid. And I'm lucky that I got out of that so young. Because I still got a lot of life to live, and I'm excited to live it and learn more things and try and become a better person for this world. And so when I hear things like that, it's always kind of like sad to kind of look back on that, because it's always like the most surface level way of thinking about. Sorry, her fur is all over me. Always, it's everywhere. You're killing me. Okay. It's always kind of the most surface level way of looking at these things, of just being like, oh, you know, just get up, do what you got to do. Killing yourself is weak. It's like, it's such a strange way of viewing this real problem. Because, I mean, we're talking about chemicals in your brain, right? It's not just being sad. It's a chemical imbalance that prevents you from feeling anything else. Like, if you feel anxiety, you know that you can't just make it go away because you're like, oh, anxiety sucks. I want it to go away, so therefore I'll will it away. Like, that's not how it works. Even if you know and you're aware of it, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Got her everywhere. And she's clicking on things. Stop clicking on things.
A type of sound.
What are you doing? Okay. It's all right. I love you. You gotta get down. Anyways. Okay. Anyways. There's fur all over me. Let me take a second. Take a second to defur myself. Oh my God, I had like an actual hairball. Okay. I need to wash my face. I need to get water. Need to wash my face. Need to get water. Ooh, hot dog. Feels like I was under attack there for a minute. Okay. Now, like I was saying, I think it's very surface level, very easy to look at a depressed person and say something like, "Oh, you know, killing yourself is so weak," and saying that being depressed is just a weak mindset. You know, it's a very easy position to arrive at when you don't actually think about what you're talking about. When it's just like very easy to just kind of throw that out there, because you're talking about a chemical imbalance in your brain, right? You're not talking about just being sad. You're not talking about just, you know, feeling down because of some really bad thing that happened in your life. Your brain cannot function normally like another human's brain can when they do not have the chemical imbalance that you have. This is just the scientific way of looking at it. You can't do anything about it except maybe like go get a syringe of other chemicals and inject it, or take some chemicals out. I don't know. But I don't think that's practical, right? I don't think it's that simple of being able to just will yourself into feeling better. Listen, you can try your best to try and get into better habits, try and reach out to get better help, to help get yourself back and out of these kinds of states. but it's not a simple thing of just, making a choice to be better and being better. It is a lot of hard work that goes into it, and it is not easy to even start that journey, let alone finish the journey. So the idea that depressed men are weak, it's just sad. I mean, nobody who's depressed is weak. They're going through a hard thing to get through. It does not make you weak because you are struggling to get through a hard thing. If you threw a 100-ton bag at me, it doesn't make me weak because I didn't catch it. It makes that 100-ton thing a hard thing to catch. That's it.
It's coming out of that, right? And not because killing yourself is the weakest to do.
That type of sentiment saying that men who have depression are weak leads to men killing themselves. So I want to push back against that. There are so many studies that show that men who hold those types of views are more than 2 times as likely to kill themselves. So I would, okay, well, fair, we'll give it,
Who else wants to? Both sides will agree, yes, being depressed is weak, but they're going to say it's okay to be weak. And I think that we should say it's not okay to be weak. Because as men, as a traditional men, it's our job to be strong even when we feel weak.
I don't agree with that.
That needs to be said. Anyway, I think we should.
I don't agree with that.
There's okay.
Not at all. I am a gay man, and my experiences within the gay community and the depression that I've gone through is a completely different perspective from a straight perspective. But my ability to fight through that and to stand and the things that I've overcome have made me really strong.
I've struggled with depression.
So it sounds like I got to speak to this person. I can't remember the name. Michael. I got to speak to this person about their perspective and about things, and it was nice. We all kind of had conversations with one another about certain stuff, and they joined in. I don't know entirely. So they're disagreeing. He's disagreeing with what's it called? With Aldo's point about saying that men need to always be strong and everything like that, and. I don't know necessarily where he lies on the idea of depression and weakness, but yeah, I mean, what do you mean you're supposed to always be strong? How? It's not a possible thing to consistently throughout your entire life be strong and be happy and be able to do everything. It's not a real tangible goal to set. How are you going to be strong if something tragic happens to you? How are you going to be strong in situations where your life is turned upside down? It's okay to take a minute, man. You don't have to just grin and bury it, because I think that's probably what's going to end up weakening you throughout your life as you go on. It's just pretending as though it doesn't bother you will make you less human, will make you less there. If you spend your whole life ignoring your emotions, ignoring how you feel, what's going to be left of you? What's going to be left of you for your kids, when you're 70 years old and you're not physically strong anymore? You're just this old bag of bones. And do you want to just be this old bag of bones that no one wants to be around because you're just always so hung up over the idea of oh, I'm a man, I am a man? Or do you want to be someone who's just I'm an old man who just wants to be there for my family. I want to be happy with my family. Nothing else matters. I don't care about my role in society. I don't care about what tradition says I need to do and how I need to act. I just want to be happy with my family. So I don't know.
Depression myself, I have ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, and that does predispose you to depression, anxiety, and other things. Despite that, I don't feel weak. I was a former top cop. I was the youngest cop in my state. I teach women how to beat up dirtbag men. So I don't feel weak despite having those struggles with depression and anxiety.
It causes men to have this complex that if they aren't enough for their family, if they're not enough for themselves, then who are they going to be enough for? Why are they even here?
If you let your depression win, you're weak. So you could be depressed, but you still go through life. If you're just laying in bed all day, then I would say you're probably weak. But coming from a biblical standpoint, it says that the righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. You will fall, and so that's okay, but get back up. So yeah, that's what I would say.
It's not that simple. It's not as though you've fallen and now you're just choosing not to get up. It's not easy to get yourself up. It's not easy to maintain your, if you want to talk about the analogy, it's not easy to maintain your posture. If you're depressed, it's like having a 1-ton I don't know. I don't know why I'm using tons, man. I'm an American. It's like having 100-pound thing wrapped around you the whole time, right? The difference between me getting up with a 100-pound thing and me getting up without a 100-pound thing are two very different things. Can I do it? 100-pound thing. Can I do it? Yeah. Is it easy? No. I mean, there's gonna be some days where I'm gonna be like, you know what I want to do today? I want to not get up. I want to just lay here, rest. That way I'm stronger tomorrow. Maybe one day, it's not gonna be as bad, but that rest is needed. The rest is very important. And the thing about it is that with clinical chemical depression, it's not that simple as just a 100-pound weight, because you can push that off. You can get stronger physically, but if you just have chemicals in your brain that are just keeping you from happiness, that's not hard. That's not easy. Even just thinking about that makes me really sad. Like, there are just some people who are incapable of happiness. It's like, there are people who work hard to do the best things they can for them, for their families and people they care about, but just don't ever feel the feeling necessarily of happiness because of their depression. They can work as hard as they want, they can do all the right things, but they're just depressed. And yeah, you can sit there and be like, oh, but they're strong because they adhered to their roles and they did what they were supposed to do. It doesn't make their lives any better. I'd argue that it may make it worse because of how much work you're putting into things that aren't you getting better.
Two different ways to argue this. I think that we have one who's studied it, is very intellectual about it, and is very passionate about this case. And we have another study where this person is traditionally gone through a lot of masculine things, so showing their masculinity, and very much so gives that example of depression does not make you weak.
Chad, raise your hand.
So I said some things. What I'm talking about there is that there were two, like, I felt a little bad because there were a couple more people who raised their hand, but Oliver and Chad, these two, I think they were the two strongest candidates that people were deciding between. I abstained from voting because I thought that both of them would be good either way. And Chad represented a more traditionally masculine, I guess, presenting kind of guy, where his history was like traditionally masculine stuff, and where he was coming from is something that I think that the traditional men would have a much easier time kind of gripping and being able to have a good dialogue with. Whereas with Oliver, he wasn't necessarily coming from like an experience of being like a traditionally masculine man, and that's why he has a good authority on why like having depression and being masculine are like interchangeable, and not interchangeable. What am I saying? I'm saying that Oliver was not coming from the position where Chad was. Where Chad is saying, I am a masculine, and you could call me, like, I've done a lot of traditional men kind of things, in what you admire, right? Being a cop and stuff. And I still have depression, and that doesn't make me weak. I mean, I still did all these manly things, right? Whereas Oliver wasn't coming from a background like that. He was coming from more so a position where he's very passionate about it, and he's studied about it, and he cares about this topic a lot, and is very intellectually, I don't know, he's got good intellectualness, I guess. I don't, clearly. But he could communicate the argument and make the argument very strongly and very articulately. And so I think those are the two different kinds of ways of doing it, is the one where traditional men relate more to it, and the one where, one has more of the data that he's really focusing in on. And so I abstained, because I thought either of them would have been good picks.
Oliver? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, sounds like we have a clear winner. All right. We're still working it out. We're so good at this. Thank you. If only we could win elections like this.
All right, both sides have selected their speakers, so let's bring forward Alex and Oliver. All right, so the question is, are depressed men weak? I'm going to let you guys see if you can come to a middle ground statement. You've got 8 minutes. Go for it.
I'll let you go.
Okay, sure, yeah. So, I'm coming from the perspective that I don't think that depressed men are weak. I think that depression is something that needs to be taken very seriously. And I think that statements like depressed men are weak are exactly the kind of rhetoric that perpetuates the problem, that leads to people being stuck, including myself, experienced with depression, being stuck in this type of rut that you can't get out of. And the moment that I kind of like acknowledged to myself what other people were telling me, but I was really like, oh my God, am I a weak man? Am I, somehow lacking in some sort of way? The moment I, put that aside and just was like, no, depression is a mental illness. Once I, got past that and, got the help that I needed, it was really the moment that I started to emerge from that. So I think that that type of statement is part of the problem and something that I want to push back
Okay,
against.
but what you would say is staying in a state of depression, I would consider that weak, right? Depression in and of itself isn't weak, but when you label yourself as a depressed person or you let that win you over, that is weakness.
So I would disagree because I think it's important to define problems as what they are. We don't solve cancer by not calling it cancer. We acknowledge that a problem exists, and how we respond to that is very important. But I don't think saying we shouldn't call people depressed because then they'll know that they're depressed or that they'll rot in that sort of state.
No, but
is
I'm
bad.
saying like labeling yourself as a depressed person, like saying that is part of my identity. If you
I don't think anybody is happy to be depressed. Listen, there are like edgy, teenagers that are growing up and like they say goofy things all the time. They say things like, "Oh man, I'm so depressed because like they didn't get their Starbucks or whatever," and I don't think that is an equatable thing to real world depression, where I don't think anyone who is depressed is going around flaunting their depression. Like, I think that they're living with it miserably, and oftentimes when you see people joke around about having depression, it's them coping with their shitty depression experience. No one wants to have depression. No one's happy to walk around being like, oh, I'm depressed and I'm just going to stay like this the rest of my life. They would probably give a lot to be able to just be happy and to not have this weight in their brains, It's just heartbreaking to hear that kind of talk about it.
is injured in that second, I think he's weaker than he normally is. That doesn't mean he's weak overall, but in that second, yeah.
Is it weak to say that he's injured? Is it weak for him to claim, I am currently injured? I want to get better, but I'm currently injured.
No, but he's weaker.
For sure, people are definitely in a weaker headspace.
Right.
But
yeah, man. I mean, if you're depressed, like, what do you mean? What do you mean in the sense that it doesn't mean? It's such a weird way of looking at it. If you're depressed, are you weaker in the sense that you have depression clouding your mind? Yeah. What are we talking about? It's like being like, if you have cancer, you're weaker than a person without cancer. Does that make them like a stronger person because they don't have cancer? No. I guess like the idea of looking at it as like a physical illness and being like, yes, that is an illness, therefore you are weakened by the illness, is a lot different than you as a person being a weak person because you have an illness. It makes no sense.
I think, and maybe I'm putting these like prescriptions onto this idea that aren't correct. So when I hear the claim, men who are depressed are weak, I think of, oh, they're less manly. They need to get over it. They need to power through and grit. And it's I heard this from someone who was over there from your side. It's a weak mindset. It's a choice type of thing. And I reject that because it is a clinical diagnosis that people receive when they are depressed.
We all go through states of depression. I think no one here would argue that you're never going to be in a state of depression, right? Things happen where you do feel depressed.
There's depression, and then there's people who describe themselves as being depressed. I think it's important.
Depressive disorder, also known as depression, involves a depressed mood or loss of pleasure or interest in activities for long periods of time. Depression is different. Something about everyday life. I can't read the entire thing, but that's from the World Health Organization. Depression is depressive disorder, also known as depression is oftentimes a chemical thing rather than just a way of viewing life thing. Hi, aesthetic anime. I'm doing good. How are you doing? It's just I feel like these two end up talking. They kind of talk past each other because they're viewing it as two different things. I think they do kind of hone in later on, but
To separate those two, because you can feel sad. Of course, everyone feels sad. Everyone has mood changes. Depression is clearly defined as
from regular mood changes and
like
feelings
feeling
by
bad
everyday life.
regardless of the things that are going on in your life, even when things are going well.
Right, but I don't think the prompt was saying that depression makes you less of a man, because I'm weaker, right?
Sure.
I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
a squirrel could beat me in an arm wrestling match, right? I don't think anyone here would say I'm less of a man.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, and I'm glad that those connotations are not present
Okay,
in
cool,
this
yeah.
conversation.
But my stance is you gotta keep on moving. Like you just have to, and you might have to take medication. I'm not against it. I'm pretty sure some people on my side are gonna be against taking medication. But
I'm glad they're not up here.
You have to do what you have to do. Right? But I feel like society most of the times is okay. They say that it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is I feel like, you know, to use a very messed up example, if, you know, Alex is talking about you got to get up and get moving. If Alex didn't have a wheelchair, if like everyone was telling him, no, you're just weak, man. You're just weak. You figure it out. Get moving. You don't have medicine to help you in depression. You don't have people trying to help you with the depression. You don't have a wheelchair if you have a physical ailment, physical difference that doesn't allow you to walk. Well, you're kind of screwed. It's not you. Me getting up and walking is a lot easier than someone who doesn't have the ability to walk. Obviously, right? So the idea is like, oh, you just got to get up and keep going. Well, shit, dude. If no one is helping you and you don't have the access to things like a wheelchair, it's like, how are you gonna do it? You're just gonna keep, you know, living your life in misery, pushing and chugging along without anybody helping you and saying that you're weak for trying to get help? I mean, it's just silly. Absolutely silly.
Okay to rot in it.
I really don't think that's largely the case. I think it definitely is in some subsets of the internet that you'll find, but I think most people, I think the way we treat mental illness is it's really hard for us to grapple with it because it's not visual. There's this idea that when you break your arm, everyone comes to sign your cast. But when you say you're depressed, they don't know what to do and run the other direction. And I think it's really important to break that type of stigma that mental illness is a real thing. I'm not sure, I don't want to speculate. I'm sure there are some people who don't really think it's a real thing. Oh, you just need to get over yourself. You need to work harder. Back in my day, we just said that we were, you know, sad and we pushed through.
Well, we see it in TV, so we see it all the time, all over the place, where it's like, hey, I can't get up out of bed today. Oh, you know what? Mental health day. I don't disagree, but I think we are, as a society, letting that be a norm and letting that be okay, which I don't think it should be necessarily all the time, because there's
agreed.
times where you have to get something done, and you can't just say like, hey, I'm gonna take a mental health day. Parents, I'm not a parent, but I'm pretty sure parents are here. They are depressed. They have to care for their kids.
Yes, and I think you and I would both agree that like it's irresponsible if you're a parent or something of that nature to neglect your responsibilities because of mental illness. However, I do think.
Yeah, it's just not that. Yeah, like that's the thing, is that obviously the goal is to, even though you are in a depressive state, even though you're suffering from depression, the goal is to try and get better to be able to function in your everyday life, right? No one is just laying around because they want to lay around. It's hard. It's not that simple. You try and work your best to try and do something about it, but you don't want to push yourself to the point where you are now just like, you know what? I just don't want to do anything anymore. I just want to call it a day, you know, set the clock to 0 and end it. So, yes, people have responsibilities and things that they need to do. You have to, you know, adhere and do what needs to be done, especially if, you know, you have people that you are relying on or they're relying on you. You know, you all come together to work together. But to just be like, you are weak if you don't do so, it's not that simple. That's it. But yeah, people, we're all human beings. We all are going to have responsibilities in our life, and we all are doing our best. For some people, it's easier to do than others because of many different circumstances.
I think it's very much the case that mental illness can be debilitating, can be crippling.
So weakness.
Yeah. Well, I guess
So
fine.
weak,
Okay, fine.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Then you're defining weakness in such a way that it has no connotation behind it. If you want to say someone who is depressed is in a weaker mental state because they're not able to function as well, then I guess we agree. But that doesn't really get to any of the societal implications where there might be some disagreement between you and me as a
I think we've
traditional
done that, but I
progressive
think
man.
we could agree that depression is weakness then.
Okay, so I would agree with your literal statement. The problem is there are a lot of connotations. When you say something's weak, it's like, oh, you know, it should be looked down upon. That person is doing something that...
No, because I'm weak, so I don't want to be looked down upon.
I agree, and I'm very glad. But I think if someone were to like look at you, oh yeah, you're weak. That would be, but it wouldn't just be a literal factual statement about the nature of the world as it exists. It would be a normative judgment upon you as a person. In many cases, if someone calls disabled people weak, would you just be like, yeah, we are? Or would you be like, you're kind of an asshole, man?
It depends a lot on context. I agree with
That's what I was saying. Absolutely, is that there's a difference between saying that someone is physically weak because their arm is broken versus saying someone is not physically weak, just calling someone a weak person because they're sad that their arm is broken. If my arm is broken, I'm pretty sad. I use my arm for a lot of things.
Sure. Well, then we would have to take everyone's opinion on it and stuff like that.
Just we're up on time, so I want to push you guys towards offering a middle ground statement.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate the question, it was, are depressed men weak?
I'll let you.
Sure. So here's, I guess, and this is why I would say I don't want to use the word weak. The use of the word men in the phrase makes it very gendered. If it was just are depressed people weak, then maybe I'd give a little more credence to this idea that we're just talking about descriptively what is factually the case. But I think when you insert men in there, there's this idea that depressed men are weak because men shouldn't be weak. Men shouldn't be burdened by their emotions or burdened by illness of the mind. It's just, something they have to power through. So because of that, here's the middle ground that I guess I would propose to you, and you're welcome to respond to me on this. Depression does not inherently make someone weak. Men are not inherently weak because they're depressed. However, if you let that consume you entirely and you shackle other responsibilities, or you claim that you have no responsibility for your own mental illness, I'm mentally ill, therefore I can tweet anti-Semitic things all over the internet. I'm not talking about anyone in particular.
That's real.
Sorry about that. But regardless, so that's kind of the middle ground I would propose. I don't know if that's too long, but.
Okay, can we agree on the middle ground that if you're a man and you allow your depression to win you over, then you're weak?
I allow you to win you over. I think there's a lot of different things that are going on there. I also would kind of want to, if possible, degender that idea. If anyone,
we're on a gendered episode.
Well, we are. You're right. You're right that we are. You are correct that we are. However, I think it is true because men exist, and because men exist, women also exist. Women don't just not exist because we all happen to be in a room with.
Yeah, but we're not talking about women in this instance.
I don't think that's necessarily the case because we live in a society that is inherently gendered. So,
no, I agree with you.
Okay.
But this episode.
Of course.
Okay, so Alex, what would your statement be if you want to give us a draft?
A middle ground, I would say, if you succumb to your depression, then you are weak. If you allow your depression to take over your life and you don't seek help and you kind of just use it as an excuse for your life or for your poor choices, and I would say that's weak.
And I have one more question for you. A lot of men who succumb to their depression are ones who end up with a bullet in their head. Are they weak in your mind?
I would say so, yes.
You'd say they're weak. Men who kill themselves because of their depression are weak.
Yes.
And I think that exact idea is what leads more men to kill themselves.
Well, so I don't,
Who said no? No, I disagree. In my mind, I think that exact idea is actually a positive way of looking at it. I think that you should call these people who are ending their lives weak because that's a net good. Net good to who, man? You think that someone who's depressed is going to hear you call them weak and be like, oh, man, I don't want them to think I'm yellow. I don't want them to call me chicken. They're not Marty McFly, man. They're depressed and they want to end their lives. They're going to try to end their lives regardless if you think they're weak or not. It's been a long episode. We'll just keep going, but that's a very sad way of looking at the world, man.
There's a strong disagreement there, and there's a lot to discuss there, but let's try and make our way back to what do you think is something that he would agree on? So he said letting depression take over your life is not a good solution, so do you have like a counter?
Do you think it makes I'm just curious, do you think it makes a man weak to seek medical remedies or to seek out treatment in that way?
No, I'm in a wheelchair right now. I have to see a doctor every 3 months.
Okay,
so.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
If the pills are helping you in that, then yeah, go for it. If you need to get out of the woods, seek Christ, whatever it is that you need to do, do that.
Yeah, I don't think I really disagree with any part of that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're landing on if a man is depressed, he should seek treatment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So men who are depressed should seek treatment.
Men should seek treatment.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. Is that our first middle ground? I think it is. Perfect. I'll take it.
Thank you to Alex and Oliver. We did come to a middle ground statement for that last prompt. Moving on to our next prompt. Should men spend their time watching porn? All right,
These are
let's
very
get you guys
interesting
up in the
ones.
center.
A tough one.
It's an unhealthy practice, and as someone who is a healthy human being and can make observations with his eyes, understands that this is not neurologically beneficial, so maybe I don't even know why it's political. I think everyone's going to agree on this.
So I think the worst part about it is breaking down the relationship between men and women, making sex something that is cheap and carnal and not something that's spiritual and deep and something that exists on a higher level than just physical. That's the other thing. I think that they'll probably argue that it's just sex and it's just, you know, it's just ejaculating. It's just something that you do. It's something
It's a funny way
primal.
to say
We just
that.
do it. But it's not.
Who on the progressive side is leaning, thinks that porn is a negative?
It depends on the individual.
And then who thinks it's a positive?
Go with my hands up.
Okay, so there's actually a little bit of a split here.
I don't think it's either one.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah,
one of those things where it's
I
like,
kept my hands down for both of those because I think that there are positives and negatives to it. I lean more towards the idea that, live your life, man. I mean, everyone should be able to do what they want to do. I'm more so look at it from more of the industry perspective as to the exploitation that goes on within that industry. I prefer to be able to make it a much more straightforward business environment that is profitable and safe for women. But in terms of like what men do, I mean, it's just like any other substance. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs or anything. I smoke cigarettes. But I'm not gonna go tell anybody, oh no, you shouldn't do this or that. I mean, maybe the cigarette thing because you're dying, but that's their life. That's in my opinion. That's cool. You do what you want to do. And I think porn is one of those other things. The thing about it is that even the guys, like I personally didn't raise my hand for this prompt because the thing about it is that no one wants to be known as the porn guy who's like I'm here to defend the honor of the porn. And so we had a very interesting situation here where the progressives and the traditional men both came forward with the idea that it's negative. And I think that a lot of us didn't necessarily agree with that, but we just didn't really want to be the ones to be like I want to argue. No one really, because could I argue for the sake of porn and the experience of like a consumer? Yeah, I can, but I wouldn't really want to argue for the sake of the business practices that go into that industry.
like it is a form of expression if the two people are consenting adults that are being paid in a healthy, appropriate environment. Go ahead, make all the porn you want. In a grander sense, it's a moral panic that men are constantly obsessed with pornography. There's a small segment of the male population that has that problem, like any other small segment of the population that's addicted to something. This is a larger extent of the moral panic of men losing their quote-unquote masculinity. It's a non-subject. Some people are going to watch porn. They will be corrected by their friends and family as they move through society and see.
My friends and family have never spoke to me about porn. I don't want to talk about it. But, I mean, okay, I guess I've never had to have that happen. I've never been in a state of addiction to something like that. And so it's not necessarily an issue. Again, it's just addictive things are addictive things. So yeah, I suppose like at anything, if your family notices that you're addicted to porn, then yeah, you've definitely got a problem and you need to do something about that. But does that mean that nobody should watch porn and that men shouldn't spend their time watching porn? What? No. If you try and tell someone nobody should drink alcohol, you know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say, "Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me." And that's a great song. Okay, I'll move it also to saying like if you tell someone you can't ever eat a specific food that they really like, same thing. Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me, and they have every right to say that.
Shouldn't watch it, but it shouldn't be illegal too.
Okay,
so
No. That's not the prompt. Let's not even get
not
into
the
it.
prompt.
That's not the
Mhm.
prompt.
If you're spending all your time not working, not actually being with your kids, you're just watching porn, you're kind of a piece of garbage.
Yeah, man. It has nothing to do with the porn. It has everything to do with the fact that you are just not around your kids. You're wasting your time doing something that is I don't know, I guess detrimental to your life, but it's not because it's porn. I would much rather the person I'm depending on be addicted to porn than like alcohol. Because at least with alcohol, like alcohol messes you up, can change you into a different human being, right? Porn is just porn, It's not good, but the idea of like, yes, if you are addicted to something and you are letting that neglect your duty in your life, I guess, to your family, whether it be, you know, your partner or your children, yeah, man, you're being a bad person.
Dad, right? Porn is an anathema to actual tradition. You can't be a traditional man if you are watching porn. Porn also just poisons the soul of a man, and it's just absolutely degenerate. It has no place in society. There's no benefit to it.
It projects a fantasy onto women. I think there's unrealistic expectations. Men are not going to get the right idea of how sex should be done, consent, lube.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff, like that kind of that kind of stuff, doesn't really come from like the porn being a negative. It comes from, you know, we need to have much more of a robust sexual education system. Are we ever gonna get that in this society? I have no idea.
Where we're going to disagree and where we're going to clash is that they want to ban it, and I am going to stand by us and our First Amendment rights to allow pornography.
All right, Brian,
Abram. Abram is great. I love Abram a lot. He reminds me a lot of like David Lynch, and so he's a super sweet guy, and I love whenever he chimed in to offer his advice. I was always kind of worried about Abram though, like in terms of voting for him, because he submitted for a lot of these prompts to like go up and speak, because I was worried that if you get the wrong person, like if you get a conservative like talking head or traditional talking head, I'm worried that he might get like steamrolled in, because he's a very nice, like sweet guy, and I was more so worried about that when it came to doing that. But he had great ideas and great thoughts about things. I was just worried about like what would happen if he ends up going against a very aggressive person.
What would you say in the argument that they're going to present, probably, which is it's not hurting anyone, it's only for my good, and it's only to the people who are going to actually speak?
We all agree that we live in a spiritual world. There's a spiritual reality. It degrades women. It degrades men. It's degrading to everybody. It does perpetuate violence. So it is damaging people. I would never buy that argument, right?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm glad that you all agree that you're in a spiritual world. I mean, you might find that some of you are believing in different kinds of spiritualness to the world. So that's something for you guys to fight about later, I guess. But, you know, the truth is, as much as I personally would like to believe in a spiritual world, you know, I don't know that there is. You know, I'm 50-50. Toss up for me. So the idea of I have to adhere to these spirits that may or may not be there, not really down with it. I don't know.
raise your hand for Ben.
All right, both sides have chosen their speakers for this question, so let's bring forward Ben and John.
Hi, Ben. What's up? Buddy, how are you?
Please go ahead, because I have a feeling that you know where we all stand on this one. So
I don't think anyone should be watching pornography. Yeah, look, I don't think you should mandate what people are watching. That said, if it is two individuals that are both consenting, that are well paid, that feel completely comfortable participating in the filming of sex in exchange for money, then please have at it, as long as it falls under the definition of pornography as set by the Supreme Court of the United States. By definition, it is, by the way, something that you see and know that it is porn. So if we're saying that, yes, porn should exist, I don't think you should watch it because it is incredibly bad for you, in the same way that you really shouldn't drink alcohol, or you shouldn't smoke pot, or you shouldn't smoke cigarettes, or you shouldn't eat fried food. All of those things are also very bad for you, both on a cognitive level and also spiritually.
Well, so I think you're agreeing with me. Ultimately, you're.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to John. At the very least, he went through all of the traditional stuff. Everything the traditional said, he managed to hit like every single aspect of it, which is really funny. Yeah, it's a funny way of going through that whole thing. I mean, again, I don't think the conversation was necessarily the most productive one, because they're both just talking about, you know, agreeing about the idea that porn is just negative, and you'll kind of see the middle ground the statement they end up on is kind of and so it really wasn't that much of a conversation to be had. But
saying men shouldn't be spending their time watching porn.
Absolutely.
But you don't think that it should be illegal, right?
No, we have the First Amendment.
And
in
while
America.
I might think that maybe it should be, right? That's not what I'm going to argue here. I'll argue that porn is destructive to men and women.
Completely
it's destructive to anybody involved in the sphere. What other things could be doing as a man?
How is it
hang on.
Okay, great.
What other things could you be doing as a man that porn takes away from? You could be working. You could be taking
Say
care
about
of your
anything,
kids.
man.
I think
You say
every
that about,
man's
like, going
goal
golfing.
should be to create a productive relationship with his wife so that he can have a productive relationship with his children and a stable family unit. Porn completely gets in the way of all of that.
I completely agree. Porn does get in the way of interpersonal relationships. That's it. Just wanted to call you up and not to be a prick, but I'm going to be a prick. You said porn is harmful to everyone involved. How is porn?
Oh, I mean
harmful to-
the people involved in the actual action of either the doing the sex or the watching it.
So you're against sex work? That should be illegal.
Sure.
You're against the filming of it, all that sort of stuff. You're against.
Yeah, I mean, look at what
And
it
so
does.
you're against the Supreme Court's interpretation of the First Amendment. Just to be clear, that's correct.
Well, I'm against certain types of speech. I mean, the Supreme Court also said you can't say certain things.
But the Supreme Court has actually weighed in on this issue, and the Supreme Court says porn is a legitimate expression of speech. Partake in it whether or not you want to.
Hey, the Supreme Court gets stuff wrong all the time, doesn't it?
I completely
There was a
agree.
time when they said, hey, black people not very important, right?
Totally,
And
and
so
they
we can
corrected
agree
it.
that they're not always right. I think you and I can agree that porn's not the kind of thing that people should be spending their time in.
I completely agree.
It's an interesting kind of walk around, and John kind of walks with him, but essentially he is saying like, yeah, no, I don't agree with the First Amendment right to porn, which I think you gotta hand it to him to a certain degree. Is that like if you do like, this is a country where the First Amendment is very valued and people care so much about these damn amendments and every single thing. Or if you as a traditional man say, yeah, if you get kind of stopped, right? It's if you say I don't care about the First Amendment, and then you say it pertains to porn, they kind of cut off that part and they're just like, oh, well, this isn't a real man. He says he doesn't care about the First Amendment, and so you gotta hand it to him at least in the way walking around to get to this thing. Honestly, the conversation, I just don't think it really. I don't know. I don't understand why John would just go up with the same mentality as this guy, only to just kind of like argue about nothing and then agree at the end about it. No offense to John, he didn't do anything wrong, but I guess it's like, what's really the conversation for, if like you're just gonna agree with him anyways about like what men should be doing. I guess like, yeah, sure. I guess there's an argument to be made that, and that's what he's doing about the fact that that it shouldn't be illegal. But I don't know. It feels like kind of a. I wish that there was more of a dialogue about it, about the actual positives, I suppose, rather than just being like, yeah, no, it is negative, but let them do it.
Millions and millions of men are spending their time in it, and we see what happens from it. It creates an economy where women are being exploited, right?
In certain cases, yes.
I mean, if you can make money from it, okay, cool. But you know how many women are like, well, I could just make a quick buck on OnlyFans, so I might as well do it. They don't want to be doing it, most of them.
I agree. Some of the people involved in OnlyFans do not want to participate. Let's use the example of Andrew Tate and all of his webcam girls. Those webcam girls were not participating for their will. They were captured in some way. They were ensnared by the lover boy model. So that type of porn, very, very bad. But someone in their bedroom, as a consenting adult, selling images of themselves is totally fine and is protected under the First Amendment. But again, brother, I don't understand what your point is. You're going, porn is stopping us hanging out with our wives. That is a fault of the man not turning the computer off and going and spending time with his wife because he's addicted.
I would
So
agree it
shouldn't
is
he
a
be
fault
given-
of the man as well, but a man can engage in something wrong while it being his fault to engage in that, but also the thing he does was wrong.
You'd have to apply that to damn near everything. Like, you'd have to at least apply that to alcohol. And go ahead. I don't drink. I've got no stake in the game. But try telling the fellows behind you, hey, alcohol is bad. And there are an ungodly amount of reasons you can find that talk about why alcohol is bad, and cigarettes especially are terrible. And see how that goes. I don't think it'll go well. But what do I know?
If you're comfortable, like, do any of you want to speak from personal experience if it's informed your views on porn?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think most men have had experience with porn, right? And it's not something that you're gonna go
69% of men. Really, Sand Fat Check? You're gonna tell me that 69% of American men watch porn each year? You're doing two things right now. One, you're making a 69 joke. Two, you're lying. You are lying, filthy liars. You know the other 31% don't have internet. That's gotta be it.
Shouting that you're happy about. Hang on. That you're going to go around. Okay, we can probably agree on that, right? I would say that many men, I think the average age now for kids getting engaged in porn is
Oh,
like.
dear God. According to the Institute for Family Studies, 93% of boys and 63% of girls report being exposed to pornography before they turn 18. The average age of first exposure is 12 years old. Listen, the idea that children beneath the age of 18, God, this is such a tough topic to broach, but it's the reality. Is that when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, people talked about friggin' all the time. Talked about all kinds of nasty stuff, right? The idea that we have to pretend as though that is not the reality and that it's just not a thing that exists is ridiculous. We need to set up better boundaries, better precautions to ensure that that kind of stuff is pushed as far as we can to their older, and ensuring that essentially trying to set up as much safety nets as you can for those who are young, who are going to try and do these things anyway. The truth is that most people I know lost their stuff, did this stuff for the very first time, had their first sexual experience before graduating high school. Children. Like, we were all children when we had our first sexual experience. That's just, I think, maybe I just grew up in like a weird town, but I think that's just kind of the truth of everybody. So we need to do a better job of setting up safety nets to ensure that not only are we doing our best to get children to avoid that kind of stuff for safety reasons, for emotional reasons until they're older, but also doing our best to that if they are doing it at this young age, we need to supply them with safety and knowledge to ensure that they're not ending up in harm's way. Which I understand it's not a simple thing to talk about, not an easy thing to talk about, but it is simply reality. We have to do something to try and make this a better situation for children. That's really it. If I could wave my magic wand, no children would be doing this, because it's a scary thing and a harmful thing for people who are that young to be doing something that can be that costly and that life altering at such a young age. But that's just not the world we live in. And I think that that's a reality that we need to accept and try and work towards making a better world that addresses and acknowledges these things and figures out a solution to make it better.
Like 9 or 10. It's extremely young, right? Horrible. They get hooked at that young age, and then all of a sudden it blows up. I've had experiences in relationships when I've watched porn. I've had experiences in relationships where I haven't. And I'm married now, and I don't do that anymore, and it's dramatically a better experience for myself and my wife. Right?
I completely agree with you that it's better when you're not doing when you're not doing it than when you are watching porno. It's better for you because of all of those, the false perception of reality that porn offers.
In episode 2, we have a much more nuanced and better conversation across the board about this, and I'm more excited for that one than I am for this discussion.
Very unhealthy to human beings. You would agree, and I would
That's
also.
one of them.
I completely also agree. By the way, that is
There's a lot more.
Listen, we can broaden this out and get crazy. You know what I mean?
Let's workshop what's a sentence as brief as possible that you want to offer as the middle ground.
Okay, I would say porn is not the kind of thing that's conducive to a healthy relationship or a healthy life in general, and that while it is legal across states, we should do what we can to minimize illegal activity on the sites themselves and also engagement for minors.
I completely agree with everything Ben has said. Not only am I in the middle ground, give me a corncob pite and a buckle shoe. I'm a trad male, boys.
Who found John?
I completely agree with everything you're saying. It is bad for you. It is bad for relationships. It's bad for women.
I don't think it's inherently bad for you. I don't think it's inherently bad for relationships. And I don't think it's inherently bad for women. There are a lot of incredible sex workers that love their job, and good for them to have that job.
And it's bad for men. It needs to be protected against kids. Kids should also be educated as to that porn is a fantasy, that it isn't real. That is not what a man looks like. That's not like a woman looks like. If you get into a van in Miami, that is not going to be the result. If you order a pizza, nothing like that is going to happen. And to that, I would say we need more education about sex. We need more education about our bodies, and we need more education about social media and the internet. So when a 9 or a 10-year-old is presented with a webpage that says, don't click on this, they go, oh, this is something I'm not supposed to look at. And that goes to parenting. So I think we, in a macro sense, absolutely agree. But those are all details to the main meme of, I think porn should be available. I don't think anyone should watch it. That's the...
So the middle ground is no, men should not be spending their time watching porn.
I hope you're all sitting down. I also agree. No, men should not spend their time watching porn.
Awesome, okay.
Well done, brother. That was so fun.
Yeah, not a fan. I'm not a fan of the middle ground we reach on that one.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, John. We were able to come to a middle ground on the last prompt. Our next prompt, should men be the leader in romantic relationships?
And here's why I tell them to
Naturally,
shine.
we as men are actually the leaders. We do a better job of just like providing security, providing in general. And when I seen the inverse,
I'm gonna
of that,
mostly shut up during this one. I'll just let myself speak for myself.
Don't naturally, they're not
I agree with
leaders,
pretty
and
much
that's completely
everything
fine.
I said.
They're more submissive and we're more dominant. We just make better choices.
I mean, that's like also scientifically proven what you just said. Men produce less oxytocin in the love.
I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about it later, but I didn't get to see this aspect, so this is the more interesting part for me to respond to. But the idea that men are just naturally good leaders and men are just naturally just more inclined to lead is just so silly. And there's one thing that I said that they cut out of the video, and it makes me so sad because it's probably one of my favorite things that I said about the situation. But we'll talk about it. But I did have some other heaters, so we'll get there.
Hormone, right? It allows people to be more empathetic, and men sit more in that more dominant role in terms of that leadership.
It's equal. The way that we kind of have marriages in our society now is that it's a partnership, and maybe sometimes what that looks like is that one of them does take a lead on certain things, whereas the other one's taking the lead on others. And you can have that balance, and I'm sure that there's some decisions that one partner is more qualified to, have expertise in, and that's gonna go both ways.
Being able to share leadership and not leadership, it doesn't have any impact on masculinity. It does empowering women to take lead does not make you less masculine.
We're talking about romance. So we're looking at the divorce and women cheating. We got to look at why they're doing it, because a lot of men don't have what we call the game. They don't know how to just be romantic. It's not about just romance. It's about listening. It's about being sensual, sexual, romantic, kinky, dirty, listening, connecting, going deep in the mind.
As a man, you should have the ability to be able to cultivate.
All right, sorry. Let's go back to that for a second. He said that the reason women cheat is because men don't have game. He said a lot of other things too. I'll just keep going.
Your woman, that's sexually, mentally, and spiritually. And for me, like, if you're able to do all three of those things, you good.
I used to be a gigolo. I used to fuck with women that Lou let me.
Yeah, that's different. That's different.
I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Oh, but as long as he's happy.
So, in order to be, your job as a man is to be the leader in your relationship. You need to provide, maintain, and take care of your woman.
I'm a child of divorce, first off. So my mom, yeah, that's why we're depressed. I grew up largely with my mom. My mom took on both roles. She took on, the leadership role, and I was with my dad on the weekends. He provided what he could provide with the short time I had with him.
I think that women are just happier in male-dominated relationships. Like, they just prefer to be just taken care of and nurture the children and everyone. And, like, when we see that different power dynamic...
What you just said is really problematic. You go, they want this, women want this.
And No, I'm saying, no, but statistically we see the divorce rates between, male and female couples where the female is, like, earning more.
I mean, no offense to Gibberish, but I cannot take him seriously when he's like, oh, no, statistically... This man's never seen a statistic. He's seen maybe like an Instagram post from like Daily Loud being like, statistics. But come on, Gibberish. Come on. You don't. You're not studying this.
Is the breadwinner.
Here's the thing, man. Like, I have had to go to therapy because I am just a very
unsympathetic person. My wife's like, you don't show a lot of affection. You don't show a lot of. You see, you were talking about kind of like you got to be kinky and stuff like that. I necessarily don't agree with that. But right, I don't think it needed to go there. But I think
I'm not even saying
I
anything.
think it is important
I
to
don't- I'm
understand
not
that
even
that's what
saying
romance
anything.
is, and so
I'm
who's
just-
going to be the better
at
situated
least
to
you
talk
went
about
there.
that?
We're all focusing on sex when it's
More
not
power
about
to you.
Why are you seated?
Michael's so funny.
Because it's just too many people.
Too many people, yeah.
That, and it's like, it goes hard, weird, trash. Honestly, I was joking with one guy. I was like, maybe I should have brought a blue shirt. Like,
Well, can you speak
See, I
to
didn't
that
even
a little bit?
see. I didn't even see that they
Sounds like
stepped out of
there's a
that.
lot
That's
I'm
wild.
not in a relationship
I had no
right
idea
now,
the
guys,
Republican,
but the two I've been in, both
traditional
times
men
I was with,
were infighting
the
that much.
relationships did work
We did
out
not
for
have
as long as
any
they
of them
lasted
at all.
because I did not take.
We
believe
didn't
in
always
them.
agree, but we didn't
I
even
let
like.
the two women I've been
It was more
with
so like
take
just like
lead.
I hear you,
divorced,
but
yes.
you know.
But
let's do
it
it.
was just because of the circumstances. Yes, she had to move because of a job, and I couldn't go with her.
I think it's important that we
Hey, bro.
state that the order of God in Christianity is God over Christ, Christ and man, man over woman, and this is vaguely in Islam. There is something similar in another religions.
It says, "Let us make men."
It is.
Talking about the angels.
It is important that we stick to this. Once we deviate from this,
Let's just
that is
focus
when
on the
it-
argument.
I think it depends
guy
on
in
what
the
we
back
mean
is
by
so
the
funny.
term lead, because I think some of us are having this idea of just like control or whatever, like women are supposed to submit and just like, and I would agree with that statement, but I also think it depends on a man who leads like servant-hearted. Like I would argue like a biblical man who he's self-sacrificing, puts the needs of his wife above his own.
The fact of the matter is, in romantic connections with women, there's going to be times that I'm going to need to tell you no, and I'm going to need to control situations that you feel otherwise about.
Situations, not her.
Yeah, if you want to go to Walmart at 2 a.m. in the morning because it's 24 hours and you think you're going to be safe, you're not going. So at the end of the day, we as men have to say, oh, you know what? I understand that, but you're not going, and this is the reason why. And guess what? I'll go because I'm your protector. That's leadership. What I'm saying is these guys are going to play you and I'm like, oh, well, why can't they? You know, it doesn't have a study of showing women can't lead just as well as men. This is what they're going to say.
I think the idea.
This is look, man. This is a partnership. Do I personally believe that going to Walmart at 2 a.m. is the best strategy? Like if you're walking to Walmart or something? No. But you know, who am I? Who am I to tell someone what to do? I'll just be like, are you sure you want to do that? If they're like, yeah, I got to do it for this, this, and that. All right, then. That's their choice. I made my peace be. I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea. And they're like, eh. And I'm like, okay. And same goes vice versa. I do a lot of stupid things. Sometimes I try and build a shelf out of a guitar case. And they're like, are you sure it's a good idea? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I don't think it's a good idea. I'm like, okay. And you know what happens? I build a shell out of the guitar case because I'm my own person. And they're their own person. We just talk with each other. Sometimes they stop me from doing something dumb. Sometimes I stop them from doing something dumb. It's a partnership. It's that simple. No one controls one or the other.
Of one gender being the only thing that
sorry,
Just as
I'm about
well
to
as
spit.
men. This is what they're going to say.
I think the idea of one gender being the only thing that can lead a relationship is just ridiculous. Like, let's be realistic about it. Marriage is considered a partnership. Like, you call it a union, yet you're saying that one person has to lead is ridiculous. You work together. Some person's stronger in other aspects, the other person's strong in the others. You find a partner that you love, a partner that makes you happy, and you two choose to do what makes you happy together. Maybe you find a submissive woman and a dominant man. Great. Maybe you find a submissive man and a dominant woman. Maybe you find two people who are dominant together, submissive together. It doesn't matter. It's about individual happiness. It's about how effective you are in your own life to give yourself happiness.
We have less than 30 seconds.
There you go.
I think he has a
No,
wife.
I
think
have
that
a
I have a wife.
I got no mic.
Who cares if you have a wife?
Sure.
Yo.
No,
I got no, dude, because I can bring them to a middle ground, man.
I can bring them to a middle ground.
He got the most votes. He got the most votes.
Nate, raise your hands for Nate. Or you got, it's 1, 2. All right, thank you. Kino. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you, everybody.
6.
Thank you for
All right,
reading me.
I think we have. Let's
go.
Our winner.
Okay, our two sides have chosen their speakers. I sense a lot more tension on this side.
Which
than
again,
typical.
I didn't get to see them kind of do their communication. So when John said that, when he said I sent a lot more tension, I was like, oh really? I'm really curious as to who got sent up for that then.
But you guys have chosen Nils and Kino.
And here we go. So before the conversation gets started, I guess I kind of came into this with a mindset of there's two ways this is gonna go. is I would like to approach this and have a conversation with another human being and discuss about these topics and try and obviously have a real conversation and hope to change either their mind or an audience member's mind in a very genuine, very heart-to-heart kind of way. The other way this could go is that I'm gonna come up against like a conservative or a traditional pundit, like someone who makes videos about this stuff online, and like that's their whole kind of deal. So they're essentially, they have a financial incentive for their mind not to be changed, and then it's like it's war, like it's an argument. We're going head to head. Now, luckily this conversation was the former, and I'm very, very happy to have been able to have a conversation with Nils. I'll wait till kind of the conversation is over to kind of go through and do this, but I think that both of us genuinely did come here and definitely did have a conversation together that was very honest and very, very upfront.
Should men be the leader of romantic relationships? Gonna let you guys debate that for 8 minutes, and let's see if we can find a middle ground.
I think men should be the leader in romantic relationships. I mean, I'm married. For 8 months, so I'm not quite big experience, but
Congrats.
I think the thank you, I appreciate that. But I think the whole idea of men taking the lead in relationships, men should be pursuing virtues, and I think a lot of the things that men are biologically, psychologically, and societally wired to do.
So those three things is biologically, psychologically, and societally wired to do. One of those things is not like the other. And I guess I don't really harp on it too much, but there are more ways. Well, I do actually, kind of. But those, it's completely different. The societal wiring, and I'm just gonna let myself talk because I go over most of the
things
stuff.
that
I'll
are
go over
more
things that I didn't
like
get to
leadership
say, or things
oriented,
that
so like risk
I
taking,
missed
being able
saying.
to stand up for the
Or that
common
they cut
good,
out.
doing all these different types of things. And so I think that applies to a romantic relationship because there are going to be instances where a man has to step in and take control and say no and lead, protect, provide, and maintain. And I think those are innate things that we have as masculine men. The other side, I think women tend to feel more protected, and I think that's something that they want. Like, they want to be led. They want to have a man who loves them more than they love themselves. So,
I just want to chime in and say I have a lot of things I want to say, but I'm just gonna let me say it. I don't take my listening for like agreement, because you'll hear my disagreement in a second.
The biblical view is like you should love your wife as Christ loved the church, and so you give your life for that person. So I think that kind of takes precedent.
Okay, well, I see that when you're talking about these things, you're talking about generally, you're talking about for your personal life. This is how you've experienced it. This is what you view for women and what you view for men. I would say that I don't think that really applies when you're talking about the reality that we live in, which is that everybody is different. You can look at any different person, and every person has different thoughts, different ways of living, different ways of reacting, right? So even if you're a masculine man, maybe you just are lazy, right? Maybe you don't want to take a lead.
I was kind of firing off the cuff. That wasn't my strongest line. I mean, there's a truth to it to a certain degree, where there are a lot of masculine or men that are kind of like lazier in the sense that they don't really care to take the lead in situations. They'd rather just have their woman do it. Not because they're like lazy workers or lazy in like their life, but just because they just don't care to be the leader. They are just like, yeah, honey, go buy what you want to buy, go do what you want to do. If you want me to go to dinner, and tell me what you want me to wear, all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to kind of elaborate on that more, because firing off the cuff, it just sounded a little goofy.
In your relationship, maybe you like a partner who goes ahead and does their things for you, and you partner with them. That's the idea of the unionship, right? Is that you're a partnership, and that you're supposed to work together. So when we're talking about men assuming these roles, I agree with you. You said about societally wiring these men and wiring women to feel a certain way. I don't think they're wired that way. I think that they've been reprogrammed that way through movies, through television, through the way that the patriarchal society has existed throughout time. And we're talking about women never being able to work, never being able to vote. Like this.
I didn't get to see. Obviously, I'm talking, so I don't really get to pay attention to this. He was not having it. My man was not having it throughout my conversation with Nils. But the craziest part that you'll see, he wasn't having it when either of us are talking. I don't know what he wanted.
Women never being able to work, never being able to vote. Like, this is all stuff that is very, very new to the world in general. So when we're talking about women being able to do these masculine things, it's not that they don't have the ability to, or that they don't have the desire to. It's that they'd never had the opportunity before, and we're trying to get there. We're trying to slowly but surely.
Again, I'm very proud of myself, because this was this was all very off the cuff. None of this stuff was really stuff that I thought about 100% before. This is all just kind of like, this is just how I feel about these things. There was one thing, again, that I really liked that was more well thought out that they cut out. I'm still upset about it, but we'll get there. But yeah, the idea is that we are in a very new, open society to women, and therefore we're trying to make things as best we can to make it more easy for women to exist the way they want to exist, because that historically has not been the way that it worked.
Progress, so that way men and women have equal opportunities to do whatever they want, not be handed a Barbie and not be handed a G.I. Joe, but when you're a child, be able to grab whatever toy you want and have fun and and live your life that exact same way as you get.
That, my favorite line off the cuff, 100%. I don't know where that came from. I really don't. I've never thought about that. I've never thought about the idea of like the Barbie G.I. Joe thing. I know that that's been like a thing that people say like from time to time, is like, oh, you give a girl a Barbie and stuff like that. But I'm very happy with how that came out. I'm very proud of myself on that one. I don't mean to like glaze myself too much, but I don't know, man. I hear myself talking and I'm like, well, oh, he's got a point. I like the idea of grabbing whatever toy you want. I mean, come on. That's a heat, right? That's a heat.
A child, be able to grab whatever toy you want and have fun and and live your life that exact same way as you get older.
Sure. Yeah. So I brought up the points of being, psychologically wired, biologically wired, and you completely disregarded those two and went straight to the sociological. There are studies that show that men, we just naturally have more testosterone. That's just the way it is. And
So you'll see that these two things are separate. So the top one says, according to NIH, after puberty, men produce 20 times more testosterone than women. According to NIH, while gender is hierarchical status quo, there are many other features, including attractiveness, age, behavioral, social, and reputational characteristics that factor in as well. So these are two kind of unrelated things. And the reason why is because having testosterone does not make you a leader. It just doesn't. Like, there's not even much more to say about that. It's like saying, I have more dopamine, and that's why I'm a leader. Like, no disrespect to what he is saying, or actually kind of disrespect what he's saying. No disrespect to him as a person. It just didn't really make much sense. And this is where my thing got cut out that I'm bummed about, because I had a really nice retort that I thought about prior to this.
That requires leadership, because the person at the top is the one making the decisions. I'll put it this way. I think men have a strong, soft side, and I think women have a soft, strong side. And what I mean by that is men are supposed to take these things of leadership, but we're also supposed to have empathy. We're also supposed to, I would probably disagree with some of these guys about like men not being able to like share their emotions. I know it is virtuous to show courage, but a deficiency in courage would be
okay. So before we continue, I think we already passed the part that they cut out. But my response to him saying that men are psychologically and biologically wired to do it is that most men are not leaders. When you look at the amount of jobs there are in the world, not a lot of leadership roles compared to worker bee roles. And it's not like they're bursting at the seams like, oh, I can't live like this. I have to be a leader. I need to go out and stop working the fry cook. I need to be the owner of this restaurant. No, it's just not how we're wired. We're not wired to just naturally be leaders. You can look at that through your coworkers and all the people around you and your family, where that there are a lot less leaders in this world than there are workers. And if you're saying that men are biologically wired to be leaders, well, then why aren't we living in like a hellscape where men are constantly just fighting one another to become the leader because we just can't help it? It's just not the case. It is a societal thing. It 100% is. And that's the thing they cut out.
You're a coward. And whereas on the other side, you have an excess of that, which would be recklessness. And I think a man leading in a virtuous state provides the most stable home to raise children, to do all these different types of things.
So what do you mean by virtuous?
Like courage, temperance, fortitude, all these different types of things. We have this like Andrew Tate, like hyper toxic masculinity that I would absolutely reject. But then on the other side, we also have this rapid evolving femininity that's happening. And I'm saying the virtuous path is often in the middle.
If we shift a little bit from kind of this higher level, can you guys speak from personal experiences as to why, have your personal relationships informed your stance on this and why you would make that argument?
Yeah, I mean, I'm stupid. I think a lot of
I'm stupid too, my friend.
Exactly.
Fire from the hip.
This is not a great way to start an argument.
I think it's the perfect way to start it, John, because I think you're stupid too, John.
Got it.
My bad, John. I didn't mean to bring you into this, but you spoke out of turn, John. And my masculine leadership energy has had to put you in your place. I hate to do it to you, John, but gotta be watch out when you're dealing with men. Never know, we're gonna pounce.
Let's be real. All of us are stupid at one thing or another. Maybe we make mistakes. Maybe we choose to do something that we're just bad at, or maybe we choose to do something we think we're gonna be good, or we think it's the right decision and it's not. So, for example, I'm not a mechanic. If my girlfriend comes to me to try and figure out how to fix a car, I'll make an attempt with her, but it doesn't mean that I know what best to do. So I'm just gonna go in there with a wrench. The idea is that we try and figure out the best solution together, right?
Sure.
If we're trying to make sure that we're doing the best
They
thing.
cut out the part where I say, like, we'll go to a mechanic together. Like, as opposed to just being like, well, actually, I guess, because the truth is, like, we talk about, like, okay, what's the best thing we can do? Because that has happened where my girlfriend and I were like, okay, something's wrong with the car. Do we want to go to AutoZone and do the check engine light to see if it's something we could do ourselves? Or do we rather just go to a mechanic and call it a day? So there we go.
Things together. It's not that simple as just, I lead because I, have a thing.
Sure.
Talking from personal experience, the idea of working together and being a partnership is an incredibly important thing. And I think that goes above just needing to lead, regardless if you're the woman, the man, or you're in a gay relationship.
Okay, you see that? Do you see that? I've thought about that ever since we filmed this. We filmed this almost like, I think, a month ago to the day. And when I talked about this, like I said, I'm firing off the hip, okay? It's just all happening right off the top of my dome. None of this was really pre-thought out, and that's why it's sloppy. But I think about what I just did every single day.
That goes above just needing to lead, regardless if you're the woman, the man, or you're in a gay relationship.
I said, regardless if you're a woman, a man, or in a gay relationship. That was not a conscious decision that I made. It was an accident, and I've thought about it every day since, and I can't do anything about it now. I just want to acknowledge it and let everyone know that I see it, I felt it, and it's what it is.
Whatever it may be. The idea is that you are in your partnership and you should be working together. And I think that maybe even your religion would say the same thing.
I mean, I agree with most of what you said, but I think at the end of the day, like, there are going to be certain decisions that need to be made, and I think the men have the most capable instinct in knowing that. And granted, they very well could be wrong. So going back to the idea of speaking from personal experience, I mean, my wife and I's marriage functions in a very traditional sense. Like, I'm the head of the house. When important decisions come to make, I consult my wife. I really much value her insight, and I really care about her and like what she wants. If it functions where the man lays down his life for his wife, he leads his wife, he puts her needs above his, and the wife submits to.
I'd like to say real quick, I don't think anyone should be laying down their lives for anyone unless you really love them. I don't think it has anything to do with your gender, right? And most importantly, I think you both should be running. I think you both should be trying to survive. But if it comes down to it, and you love one another, well, that's a decision you make together. But I don't think it falls to one person or the other to be like, I will die because, someone else said that I got it.
The man's leadership. I think that leads to a flourishing relationship. And I'm not saying submit blindly to this controlling man. I'm just saying, no, like, she should submit. I mean, but the man should also be loving her more than he loves himself. So I view it as like a partnership, like you're saying. But at the end of the day, there is
He just doesn't like anything that we're saying at all.
Psychological, and yeah, you could argue social. How do you say that word? Societal. Sorry,
No.
Societal impression on romantic relationships, and I'm speaking about marriage in general. But I would obviously, even before we were married, we kind of had that figured out.
Okay, so we're out of time for the debating. I want you each to take a swing at what's a middle ground statement you think you would both agree with after hearing each other.
Okay. So I believe that my middle ground statement would come from the idea of the betterment of your life for you, your wife, your husband, your child, whoever is in your vicinity. If you are working towards making sure that you have the best thing in that life, regardless of if you're the leader or not. So regardless of if the man is the leader or not, as long as the relationship and the family is progressing forward healthily, then that's all that matters.
Bit of a
I think
long
I
one.
would put forth something like this. It is a good thing if a man and wife, or whatever, insert romantic relationship, both pursue a virtuous life that will lead to both of them flourishing.
I don't. Do either of
You
you
have a way of-
disagree with each other's
I feel like we're
statements?
saying the same thing. We're just using different words, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it would be preferable for your middle ground statement to, talk about men or leadership. Ideally, both.
Sure. Okay. How about this? The most flourishing that a relationship could get comes from a man who leads his wife in love.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's just a nutty thing to say for a lot of different reasons. I mean, for one, I'm really bummed at myself for really not bringing up and talking more about gay and lesbian relationships and, relationships between like non-binary and transgender people, because I feel like that's a whole other element to this that, we're just kind of not really addressing as much. But obviously in a situation like that, it makes no sense at all, But ultimately, again, I have very conflicting feelings about Nils, because when I met him and when we had this conversation, he was really, really nice. And I believe his heart is in the right place. And I believe that he ultimately in his heart, he's a good person. And I really liked him. And I'm glad that we got to have this discussion. Unfortunately, I also saw his social media after this conversation, which only now recently, because the video came out and the thing came out. So I wanted to see, because I actually assumed, because I thought I heard him say that he was just lived in like somewhere in the Midwest, and he was just like wanted to come out and do this. I didn't know that he was like actually making kind of traditional content, which is mostly religious content, which isn't a problem. There was just some stuff that was like more like hard, like Islamophobic, like really hard Islamophobic, that was like, it makes me really sad to see, because I just don't know why that's necessary. Like, why can't you just talk about your own religion and the things that you really like about your own religion, the things that make you happy with it, or just the fun little kooky things about it, Nothing wrong with being religious. But it just made me sad to see the kind of, the negative kind of ways of talking and discussing and looking at other religions and looking at other kinds of people. And so it makes me really sad, because I really do feel like he has a good heart. I don't know why I just don't know where that part comes from. And I know that he actually, I wasn't like stalking his Instagram, but I went through some of the people's things, and he was one of them because I talked to him. I saw that he recently just had an injury in an accident. I wish him nothing but the best recovery, and it seems like he'll be fine. And I'm happy for that. I am. I wish, if he ever comes across this video, I really do believe that you have a good heart, and I really do wish that maybe you take a little bit of time to reflect on if you want to push that kind of negativity towards others out there. And instead, would you prefer to focus on happiness for you and for people like you? And I hope that maybe that resonates with you, because like I said, I had a great conversation with him, and I really do think that our conversation was probably the most civil and the most cooperative than all the other ones. And so yeah. And so it really bummed me out when I saw that, which is, such a privileged way of looking at it, because obviously it would really hurt a lot more if I was why am I blanking on the word for following Islam? It's not Muslim, is it? Sure, no, it is Muslim, right? No. I don't know. If I followed the religion, obviously it hurt a lot more. So I come from a place of privilege where I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I would like to urge and hope that we all can change. We all made mistakes, and we've all evolved as people. And I hope that you want to evolve in a good direction for you and what makes you and your family good and you happy. So that's why I'm very conflicted about this whole conversation and kind of reacting to it, because I really do appreciate the time that and the ways that we communicated through this. There are just certain things, certain aspects that I really wish he takes some time to think about. And I'm just a stranger. He doesn't have to listen to me, but it made me feel good. Just kind of putting that out there. So that's what I did. But anyways, let's keep going.
I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Obviously, there's plenty of examples of existing, but I think that a happy relationship could exist without a happy relationship could exist without a man at all. But I feel like we're there. I feel like we can do this. Okay. So I believe. So
the getting the middle ground was very tough. Like, not necessarily just for us, but like ours did take like 5 minutes, because we had such a similar point of view on the kind of overall thing. I just think there's this thing of like not wanting to concede necessarily, and so we're trying to kind of work our own wording in to make it best fit our side and not feel like we're just giving into the other. So we end up with a middle ground that's actually kind of controversial, and you'll see that in the next episode. And I understand why, and I'll kind of explain my perspective on it, and I'll do that in a bit. But it took us a while to get this middle ground, and you'll kind of see what they leave in and how much it took.
A man does not have to be the leader to get a happy relationship.
Well, I do think a man should lead, but I think what we mean by lead might be different.
Okay, let's do. Let me see if I can give you something. So, if we do a man and a woman working in partnership is more important than who is leading them.
I think that's such a good one too. But Nils about to say is probably I think one of his most controversial things that he says here.
Ooh, I wouldn't say more important.
Because not to cut you off, my bad. But to say that, it might not be more important to have a partnership than it is to be a leader. I mean, that's like a scary kind of thought, no? Is that you're saying that a relationship, it's more important that the man is leading rather than you guys working together. That's called a hostage situation, And so, again, I don't think he really feels that way. I just think it came from, again, like trying to not fully concede on this idea of like men being leaders. But it comes off really, really bad. It's me being charitable, because I want to believe the best in people. And I don't know, just how I feel.
Think about it this way. I'm going to give you my example is that if a man is leading, but they're a terrible leader, I mean, I'm sure you've met men that suck as leaders, right?
Yep,
if you have a man is leading, it can get real rough. So if you have a man that's leading, but they're a terrible leader, and the wife is submitting, but it's a terrible leader, so they go somewhere terrible. You don't want that, right? You would prefer it, even if they're not leading, if their wife is keeping them in check, if the husband's keeping her in check, they're working together, that's more important than a man leading, right?
I think I would agree with that. The only exception would be if the man is truly leading the relationship down a horrible place, and the wife just has to submit there and follow along as they both spiral. So how can we rephrase that to include that?
We got this. Let's just take a second.
Are we? I said, this took a while to try and get to a good middle ground, because I was very adamant that I thought that we had a really great civil discussion and that we both had our hearts in the right place. I thought it was very important for us to reach a middle ground, because if we didn't reach a middle ground while we're literally just saying the same kind of idea and we're trying to like both work together on this, well then I feel like we're just kind of letting everyone down. Because I really thought that this was a really good way of showing that there are people, like normal people, who regardless of whatever color, what kind of team they're on, they just want what's best for people. And I think that some people get misguided in that, and that's all I think that Nils is. And I'm just another guy. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to think that it's just my opinion. I'm sure he'll probably, if he hears that, he'll probably be like, oh no, I'm not misguided. And it's just my opinion about it. And so I just thought it was very important though that for a conversation where we both have been approaching with a very, very nuanced a very like approachable demeanor with one another and working together in tandem. I thought it was very important we get a middle ground, and so that's why we really did try hard for this one.
Yes, because we got the idea wrong. All we're trying to do is phrase it. Okay, so
Let's give it one more try.
all right, let's do this. Okay, you take a second to think. I'm gonna take a second to think.
I will.
It's so funny to me. I leave us thinking in here, but honestly, dude, that's a great pose. Tell me that's not a great like shot. Look at little John. Look at little John with his goofy little smile. This is such a good. Oh my God, it's like a Renaissance painting. No, look at this, dude. It's totally like a Renaissance painting. That's freaking awesome. Hold on 1 second. I gotta screen grab this. This is for the thumbnail right here. That's freaking awesome looking. I'm a big fan of this. Oh wait, hold on. There you go. Okay, cool. Oh man, that's so cool. Okay, anyways, I don't know. Sorry, I kind of nerded out over that. I really like movies and stuff. So when you see shots like this, that's one in a million, baby. Hot damn. Oh wait, what happened to the audio? Oh, I accidentally muted it.
What about the man should be the leader if that makes sense for the
Every single prompt is making the other person concede on their point, and so I feel like we've spent like 15 minutes on each prompt trying to reach a middle ground when we said we don't need to reach a middle ground, but necessarily to reach a middle ground on these things, it would need for one of them to concede a point.
No, I think I agree with you. I don't think we're gonna get past this one.
If I have to give the point that
And
in
I-
some certain relationships, if the man
And
isn't
I
doing his job,
We should
like I can.
because we came up with a statement. I came up with a statement, and Nils was like, I can't do it, and then John was ready to move us on, and then Nils did step up and he said, no, we can work with that statement, and that's what we did. So again, much appreciated. Like I said, we both came from a place of actually really wanting to make this work, and I really appreciate that, because this could have been just a combat, just with someone who was just here to argue, and that was not the case. We both definitely just wanted to conversate, which I'm very happy we got to.
See that it might be okay for a woman to step into that role, at least for a time. Yeah.
So I get what you mean. I think you're thinking about it more broadly, but we're talking about the man has failed.
Mhm.
It's good for the woman to step up.
Mhm.
So I think that we're good with that. Yeah?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So if a man is failing in his leadership role, then a woman should be able to step up.
Yeah, I agree with that. A woman should be able to step up if her man is failing as a leader.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, and that's how we made it happen. We did get there. We got there. Now, like I said, it's a very controversial statement, and I understand why. For me, I want to explain this now, and then when the second episode comes out, I'll explain it as well. But for me, this was about hitting a specific scenario. This is not about a generalization of all relationships. Because like I said, there are gay relationships that have both men. There are gay relationships that have both women. There are relationships that have neither, right? So this was about a specific circumstance where it's like, okay, let's just agree that if this ever happens where a man is failing in the relationship where they both agree that the man should lead, then it's probably best for the woman to be able to step up and not try and be like held back or punished or whatever for trying to step up, because that's what we're talking about originally, is that we're talking about relationships where it's like, no, women just should never step up. They should always just be following, which is obviously just miserable to begin with. So this is a good statement in the sense that no one's really happy with it, because I'm definitely not happy with the statement, but I do think that it shows, like, listen, we're both here, we're both trying, and I think that's really good at least. But the truth is like, I mean, we're both just two guys talking about stuff that really does just kind of fall out of our scope. I don't like the idea of talking about, relationship roles and relationship for other people and relationship for women and stuff that we don't have really any right to dictate. It will always, to me, always come down to the simple idea that everyone should live their lives according to what works best for them, for the people they love, for the family, everything like that. And so this middle ground statement, it is what it is. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I just want to explain that I don't think, like, a woman is responsible to step up. I don't think that the relationships naturally should have men leading and women following. It's not about that. It's about if you're in a relationship where you are the leader as a man, if the woman has chosen to kind of take a step back, maybe they don't like leading, but if you're failing, then the woman, it's a better idea for the woman to step up if they want to, than the man to continue to fail and the woman keep following. Which again, I'm not a fan of it. I really am not, but I'm just glad that we both worked hard to at least try and get somewhere together, and I think that at least was worth it, rather more so than the middle ground statement itself. We have a really good discussion, I think, in the next episode about it at least. But yeah, it's not my favorite, but it is what it is.
And it's been a pleasure.
Good time.
Thank you to Nils and to Kino for that very strained but miraculous middle ground. The whole point of this is it is kind of an impossible task, but I do think it is interesting to find where people will concede. And that is kind of what society does, is agree over things that seem impossible to agree on. So let's move into our next one.
Well said.
Is misandry more allowed than misogyny? Choose your speakers.
Misandry, hatred, dislike, and mistrust of men. Misogyny, hatred, dislike, and mistrust of women.
I just think with the prompt saying that it's like more permissible, like how many times have we seen like I hate men, men are trash online, and then if you were to say anything remotely like that, you would get flamed into eternity, right?
I think it's really important to look at how we're defining permitted. Because permitted legally and in corners of the internet that no one wants to go to are so different. Just because some woman on the internet is screaming, oh my God, I hate men, men should burn, men are trash, and her comments are lighting her up, does not mean that that's how society operates. A majority of the time, misogyny is so much more permitted within society because it is such a systemic issue. There is not a systemic hatred of men in society. It's just, it doesn't
I may be
exist.
able to shut up for the
Misogyny
majority of
makes
this. I think Oliver does an incredible job in
Misandry
this
makes
conversation.
women, makes men
And I think
have
the
hurt
traditional guy
feelings
did a really
We
bad
know
job.
that misandry is more permissible because have you ever heard of like toxic womanhood? No, but you hear of toxic masculinity. You hear people arguing against.
The majority of their conversation, the majority of the traditional men's point of view is about like mean words on the internet rather than like real world problems. Women have so much more real world problems that they deal with when it comes to misogyny than men have anything when it comes to misandry. I've never once experienced a real world problem with misandry. I'm sure, experiencing misandry when someone just says, I hate men online, or calling me trash because we're being a man online, it's not a real problem. And I really think that's probably the only thing I have to say about this, because that's what the majority of this is about.
Just being masculine itself, they treat it like it's a problem, like our very identity and part of who we are is a problem. That never happens with women. It just doesn't.
I think misogyny has a much different historical and sociological context than misandry, which is the hate for men, especially because this has become such a thing that's been developed recently as a counter to feminism, rather than actually speaking about things that men are actually dealing with.
Another idea that came about in the 20th century where women got educated and it developed this adversarial relationship with men where it used to work in tandem, right? The order, the man leading his household, we all kind of agreed with that,
Well, I guess I can say something about this. I didn't see this one, but man, I don't know how to tell you this. A lot of women were killing their husbands. A lot of them. The idea that women becoming educated is a negative thing, and that life became worse when women were educated because women got free will and could like live on their own. It's just a sad state of affair. And so, you should be thankful for divorce court. You should be thankful for that, because a lot of women who used to be just unhappy and the only way out was murder, well, now they can just leave. And I think that's a lot better, personally.
Some of us who come from Christian and Muslim backgrounds agree with that, and some of us who didn't agree with that. When that was disrupted, women started trying to compete with men. They said, well, why is he above me now? I feel bad. They started getting fed all this stuff. Then it caused competition in the workplace.
Correction, white women started competing with white men.
I didn't go there, but you're right.
Then when Sojourner Truth came in and started speaking about women's rights, she was abruptly told that she needs to leave.
Whoever's going to do it, let's get to middle ground.
Finding middle ground is going to be difficult, though. Men do get demonized a lot. I understand why.
You know, I mean, the fact that they're still on Andrew Tate and he's popular, that's a problem. But at the same time, I think misogyny is an even bigger problem.
Votes for Abram? Okay, remind everybody your name. And then if you Oliver. Oh, yeah, Oliver has it. Appreciate it.
There was a point in the past where misogyny was more rampant, right? But I think we've actually flipped now. Third wave feminism.
They have parades in the street.
This is why we got. This is why we got to. This is why we got to
Men
get to the
don't do
middle
that.
ground. We got to get to the middle ground because of that, though. We have to get to the middle ground.
So I think the middle ground could be, I think the middle ground could be that both have been problems in this country.
Raise your hands if you want Mike to speak on this issue. I see one.
Where is the hate men parade? Where? I'd be very curious to find out where this hate men parade is at. And two, again, man, all they do is say mean words. There's no action behind misandry. There's no real world consequences behind misandry. No one is obligated to like you based off of anything. For one, right? But for two, the idea that, you know, women actually hate men, it's not a real thing. There are some women who maybe really do have a negative proclivity towards men, and 9.9 times out of 10, I bet you it's probably for a decent reason, all right? So, no, man, I just don't take it seriously, the idea that misandry is so prevalent when it's more so just about, you know, mean words on the internet.
What's your name? Ryan, raise your hands if you want Ryan. I'm seeing the most. I'm seeing 4. All right, so the two groups have chosen Ryan and Oliver for this. Is misandry more allowed than misogyny?
Yeah, I would say absolutely it is. I mean, we hear this term toxic masculinity used. Have we ever heard the term toxic femininity? No, we don't. But there are some women that have behaviors that I would say are toxic. We were talking earlier about false rape accusations. Yeah, that
Okay, so the false rape accusations thing, that happened in that deleted prompt. Obviously, we haven't seen that. A National Sexual Violence Resource Center found that the rate of false reporting between 2 and 10%. Now, obviously, it's a very, very bad thing. It's for anyone to have to go through being falsely accused of crimes. It's not a simple thing to really get around, and it's it's a rough thing all the way around, because no, it's not good. But at the same time, the reason why like something like the Me Too movement is so important is because there are women who have experienced such horrific things with no recourse and no action to take back against, and to make themselves whole and to, you know, fix their lives after having something stolen from them. And so it's rough. No one likes that, man. No one likes that at all. But it doesn't change the idea that we are trying to work as best we can to make things better for everyone. And the truth is that women were incredibly oppressed in this state of not being allowed, having the safety of reporting the crimes that they were victims to for such a very, very long time, that now we have overcorrected to a bit of a degree where now, you know, the idea of like, God, this is such a hard thing to discuss as a dumb man. But the idea of believe all women, it's not about, you know, every single woman is correct about every single thing. Every single woman's thing is true. It's about, we just need to start believing women. That's it. We need to start believing women. We need to start hearing them. And the truth is, though, is that women are human, and there are some women that lie. There are men that lie, right? It's that simple. And so we're trying to find out the best thing we can do, right? It's due process, working out to do the best that we can. And it's the unfortunate reality we live in, just like all the other unfortunate realities we live in. At least we live in a world now where a woman doesn't have to have nearly as much fear about being believed when they're the victim of horrific events.
that does happen, and that would be a toxic trait coming from them. And it's just a lot of the plights of men are often just discounted because they're men. We are told inherently that who we are is toxic by that term toxic masculinity in and of itself.
So I would disagree a little bit. I think first it's really important when we're having a conversation about masculinity at all to define what we mean by masculinity. So I think a lot of the times when people are attacking toxic masculinity, as a man, I don't view it as an attack on me because they, in my view, are attacking traits such as like over-aggression, These traits such as suppressing your emotions to the point at which you can't function, or to the point at which like you are not able to communicate with your partner in a healthy manner. Demonizing gay men or other men as not real men because they don't live the same lifestyle as you. There's a lot of different things like that. So when people talk about toxic masculinity, I don't see that as a form of misandry. I see them calling out types of behaviors that are harmful to everyone, including men. So any woman or any person who calls out toxic masculinity, I view as an advocate, an ally of men, and not someone who hates them.
But why not just call out the negative behavior itself?
Because there is a type of behavior that is exemplified and takes it to an unhealthy level. You should not become, like, never talk about your emotions so much so that you become a raging mess and take out your aggression on people violently. That's not good. And that is a form of, I don't even know if it would really be a full form of masculinity. It's a perversion of masculinity. Toxic masculinity, as I talked about earlier, it leads men to literally kill themselves if they think they can't talk about their emotions in such a way that is healthy. So I think that's actually really helpful to men in that regard.
I don't think so. I think, too, that just aggression in general, you said that like it's a bad thing. I actually think aggression can be a
I said
good
over-aggression. I think there, in certain contexts, competitiveness, great, it's fine. But
like
if you're
defending your family would require a man to be overly aggressive to protect their family.
First off,
we want our soldiers. We want our soldiers. We want people that are fighting in UFC to be overly aggressive. Those are things that we actually identify as good, and even women show preference to it. But the question, going back to the question, is normalization of hatred for men more prevalent than for women? And I would say yes, overwhelmingly.
So where do you see the hatred of men primarily?
It's just internet.
Well, I see it in women's marches, and I see it in general conversation when women are like, I don't need a man.
I don't need a man?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious. If a man were to say, I don't
I
really
don't
need a
need to
woman,
say-
I'm happy living my
I feel
life the way
bad
I
not
am,
saying
I
anything,
enjoy my career,
but
I enjoy
honestly,
where I'm at,
he
I'm
nails
not
it. I
really in a
don't-
position where I need a woman. Would he be
Until-
hating women by making that type of statement,
Do
making
they
such a
hate
sentiment?
women?
Yeah, would you say they hate women?
Well, that's not celebrated, though. That's not something that's...
No, but that's not what I said, though. I said, is that an example of hating women?
Is that an example of hating women?
Because you said an
No.
example of hating men is saying, I don't need a man.
Yeah, but but they're doing it in a way to put down men. They're
How?
doing it because they view the patriarchal structure of society as being an inherently bad thing. Why?
So wait a second. Because I think a society in which is structured so that men have certain advantages over women unfairly is unfair to them. I don't think attacking patriarchy or the advantages that men get is in any way attacking them. There's a famous phrase that to the privilege, equality feels like oppression. Okay? So just because you are in a certain position and someone is saying, hey, I don't really think it's fair that you, for example, are taken more seriously in business meetings or have a better access to this certain education, or within schools, you're pushed towards more STEM fields. And me as a woman, I'm pushed to more humanities or caretaking fields. I don't think that, so I don't see that as a hatred of men. So any other examples of misandry, happy to hear them from you, and I'll say why I don't really think they're that prevalent.
So even in a case like, let's look at the issue with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively.
Yeah.
It was automatically assumed when that news broke that Baldoni was guilty. Everyone just assumed.
This is a wild one to bring up for so many reasons. Especially because at this point, this was a month ago. This is literally 1 month ago. We'd already saw all the exposed text messages from the PR agency and everything. So he just didn't keep up with the story.
Assumed that in the very beginning, and as more evidence came out, it was looked at the opposite way. It's because we have a culture that teaches women essentially to be afraid of men, that we're a problem.
Wait, I thought that was a very, very balanced case. I mean, I don't...
In the very beginning, no, because the general media consensus, at least from my understanding, was in favor of Blake Lively, but as more evidence came out, they thought otherwise.
And here's my issue with this media perception, is on social media, we see the extremes amplified. We see the most extreme voices, the people who will say something, get a clip. I don't need men. Men are trash. Men should burn. Kill all men. But that is not actually prevalent. That is not something that exists outside of the realms of Twitter and the TikTok algorithm. Go up to your average woman on the street. Ask her, how do you feel about men? I'm sure that she would give you a ton of things that she loves about men, because there's so many women who date men,
funny thing to
marry
say
men,
about
have
it,
men
though.
that they love in their
They
lives.
just go up
And
to a
that's
random
the
woman, they're like,
reality
hey, do you like
of
men?
people who exist in our society, not the fringe people on the internet.
I get what he
Yeah,
means.
but there are a lot of women that are foregoing marriage, foregoing relationships, not having kids, all these things because they're taught to be afraid of men.
Wait, are they taught to, what teaches them to be afraid of men?
Feminism?
No, 1 second. I don't think feminism. Is it possible that their life experiences with men teach them to be afraid of men? The fact that an overwhelming majority of women have experienced some form of sexual assault at the hands of a man or sexual harassment. Ask any woman in your life about a negative experience that she's had with a man. It'd be hard to find one who hasn't. Do you think that's possibly what makes
I want to
women
make
afraid?
sure Oliver, I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to make sure we get more in from him before we start going for the middle ground.
Okay, yeah. I mean, anything you want to respond to?
There have been men that have been guilty of doing awful things toward women, but this mindset that I believe is taught is that all the men are guilty of doing this. That you can't trust any man. That you can't be alone with any man. It's very common that women say that they're afraid to walk down the streets. Someone in the previous when I was having conversation said that. They had that analogy of would
Man
you
and
rather
bear?
be
Man and
alone
bear.
with a man or a bear? And
Sure.
most women chose the grizzly bear that would rip them apart. That's crazy.
So wait a second. Now,
They might
granted,
have good
I
reasons, my
am
man.
not a
They might
woman,
have
so
some real good
I
reasons.
don't understand the fear of walking down the street every night and feeling like I have a target on my back. So instead of looking at this and being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. The women are insane. I'm not even going to deal with them. When I saw that trend, I was like, wow. Like that is, imagine
Really
living
sad.
your life in a state where you feel like you are at risk of your physical safety from 50% of the population.
heartbreaking,
That
man,
must
it
be
is.
awful, and we should look into the reasons why, what is it, like 97% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment. You ask any woman if she's had an unwanted
Dude, that's
encounter
so
of a
awful.
sexual romantic
97%. I get that. There's nothing to get. I get that it's life and everyone's gonna have like a negative experience, but like an aggressive comments to like violent assault about like sexual stuff, like harassment like that. I guess it's not necessarily what this says. So maybe it doesn't include that, but I'd be very surprised if it is far off from 97%, and it's heartbreaking. No one should ever have to endure that. Yet it's just so casually accepted as it's just the way of the world. Like stuff needs to be done, man. That's why I don't care about some woman saying that men are trash. I just don't. I don't want this to be the reality that the future holds.
nature with a man, I guarantee the overwhelming majority will be able to tell you. It comes from real life experience, not this amorphous threat of men. Men are real, and men can be very threatening because of many of the biological differences that I feel you would be very sympathetic to. Men are largely stronger. Men are largely larger. Men are largely, have a lot of that over women. So women, sometimes because of the physical nature are more vulnerable. It makes sense for them to be more wary of men. That's just a rational response. It's not
to
a
the
hatred.
point where they would
I want to hear
rather
your response, and then we're going to go into
Sure, I want to hear
but
this.
to the point where they would rather choose to be alone with a grizzly bear over a man in the woods. How many men does the average woman really believe that she would be safer alone with a grizzly bear that is trained to rip them apart than a man? It doesn't make any sense.
He's so harped on this
men
grizzly
show up
bear
to
thing, man.
and to defend women.
Of course
men
they do.
have fought for women's rights. I mean, fought
We've
for
also
this
been the ones
country.
fighting against them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
primarily
want to
too,
stop.
so-
I want to stop you guys here.
Yeah.
Plenty of disagreement, but
I wanna
it's
hear
time
more
to start
examples.
throwing.
I want to hear more examples of misandry. I still don't know what it is, so I want to know.
Well, I think we're out of time.
It's a hatred of men.
We can keep exploring your disagreements as we start proposing where there's a middle ground.
I think too.
And
like,
so let's hear from
just
you
just look at
first.
our education system, all right? So. A lot of young boys are slapped with ADHD diagnoses. We're taught that just the nature of us being who we are, just being a little bit rambunctious or having high energy is like a bad thing. So instead of treating that, instead of dealing
Estimated 7 million of 11.4 U.S. children been diagnosed with ADHD.
with that, or instead
More
of
than
restructuring our
girls.
education system to accommodate men, they
50%
don't.
were more
They
likely to be
slap
diagnosed
pills
with
on
girls.
young
About
boys,
30% of
get
children with
them hopped
ADHD
up
now
on
receive medical
ADHD
treatment and behavior
and
treatment.
don't actually let
There are
them get
23%
their
of
aggression
children.
out or their energy out in healthy ways.
And you think it's because they hate men?
Yeah, I do. I
don't think it's
do in part.
I don't think it's because they hate men.
So
I
they're
think
saying the
it's 'cause
treatment
big pharma
lessened
wants
over
to sell you
time?
pills instead of the solution to the problem, and I think that transcends gender. They
Okay.
do it to both
Huh.
individuals. I don't
That's
like this. Doesn't
interesting.
seem like a gender.
Maybe I'm
specific
reading it
issue.
wrong.
Okay, so
It is
both
a
of you,
gender-perspective
it's
issue,
time to
because it
start offering a
overwhelmingly
statement that
affects
you
men.
think you can both
Disparate
agree on.
impact is really interesting that he agrees with that.
What's a statement you think you can both agree on?
I have one.
Yeah.
Hating anyone for genuinely hating them because of their sex or their gender is just wrong. You shouldn't do it. If someone genuinely hates men or genuinely hates women, that's not good. We should not promote people hating people based on any immutable characteristic, and sex is included within there. Yeah, okay.
Regina is the director. She was so funny because every time we tried to do a middle ground, we would come up with middle grounds that are like you just said, like you shouldn't hate people based on sex. Margini can be like, okay, but like everyone's gonna agree on that. We need to make sure that it's more focused on like the actual title, and it's so funny.
I don't think I can find middle ground on this because misogyny literally kills women, and misandry.
I mean that statement in itself.
Are you kidding
our
me?
very presence.
No.
Misogyny
You misunderstood me. You misunderstood me.
Okay,
The
explain.
hatred of women kills women.
Yes.
Would you disagree with that?
The hatred of, hatred could lead to killing
So the
somebody
definition
else,
of misogyny is the hatred of women.
Yeah.
So the misogyny kills women.
Yeah.
That's
so
what
you
I
could
just
say
said.
the same thing. The hatred of men, teaching them who they are as being toxic, could lead to them ending their own lives.
Okay, so because some
Because
men
society
no,
doesn't
because some men might have a misunderstanding of what misandry is and they might kill themselves, then that's the same thing as men killing women because
or
they hate
being
them.
unjustly locked up for rape accusations.
And how often
because
does-
automatically it's deferred that the woman is innocent, she's not guilty, and the man is guilty.
What about Johnny Depp? Did that happen in that case? What about in Chris Brown? Did that happen in that case?
Chris Brown?
What about in Donald Trump? Did that happen in that case? What happened to Brett Kavanaugh?
Brett Kavanaugh was demonized.
What? Yeah, he
was.
was. And where is he right now?
Yeah, because
where is he right now?
Really great
Figure
line.
out where he is. Where is he right now?
Absolutely correct on all of those points.
Okay, what do you want to propose as? What's a statement you want to propose that you think you can both agree on?
I don't think that.
Well, that's our middle ground. We can't find any middle ground on this, I don't really think.
Yeah.
Let's
I
just
think
give it another sec.
John is so funny to me. I don't know what it is about him. He cracks me up.
Give me an example of it. That's what I'm wondering. But the examples you gave me were women trying to live their lives of their own autonomy and accord, which is saying, I don't need a man, which is fine. I don't see what world you view that as hatred unless you think you're entitled to women.
Yeah, but
That's the only way I interpret that as a hatred of man. I'm being as charitable as I literally possibly can.
I gave you the ADHD example of schools being structured toward that.
It's structured towards that, but the issue is you can't just say that an issue affects men, and therefore it's because we hate men.
I've literally heard women say, I hate men.
Of course,
literally.
absolutely. And
Death to the patriarchy,
of course.
all these things.
Wait
I've
a
heard
second.
that.
Death to the patriarchy means death to the societal structures in which give men more societal power than women for no reason. That's not the hatred of men unless you think men ought to have that power because they are men. That is the only way you interpret it that way. So all I'm showing here is a lot of these ideas of what you think misandry is are just your misogynistic instincts and assumptions being exposed.
Yeah, so now you're assuming that I'm misogynistic.
I'm not
because
assuming.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not assuming. That was not an assumption. I gave you a very clearly
You're
rhetorical
demonstrating
path.
it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, I hate men.
What
yeah.
is he demonstrating?
Dismissive of men.
Dismissive?
Showing
Hey, let's let
this
him-
general
let him talk.
sentiment of animosity toward men. He's showing it.
How?
You just did it.
So I said that you have a disdain towards women because you view breaking down societal structures that benefit men
You called me
as hating men.
misogynistic.
Because that's
Do you
literally
think,
the
do you think he's
definition.
misogynistic?
Yeah, probably. I think we all are a little bit, some more than others.
I don't think we're gonna get.
Now, granted,
to a
I want to
middle
point
ground.
something out. I don't think I'm free of misogyny either. So this is not to say that you are a terrible individual or that I am a terrible individual. I've done a lot of learning to unlearn a lot of these ideas that, frankly, I've been instilled with throughout my entire life.
Yeah,
So,
but I want to encourage you. Just for, I'm sensing there's a lot of energy coming from your side, and so I do want to give you an opportunity to, expand on what you just said. You feel like he's coming from a misogynistic place, but you say you might be coming from one.
Absolutely.
If you were to lower your temperature a few degrees and
Sure.
expand on that in a way that he might understand.
We're two men debating women's issues, so there's only so much of a perspective that I can provide here. And this is not, I realize that I have not taken the most charitable approach in this conversation, and I apologize for that. I do not think you're a bad person. I do not think you actively hate women. I think misogyny can linger in so many ways that we don't even realize. Even when you hear, this just happened last week with me. Someone was like, oh yeah, Dr. Berg moved to another institution. I said, oh, where'd he go? That's an example of it. I assumed that Dr. Berg was a man. Dr. Berg was, in fact, a very qualified epidemiologist.
This is very
That's
funny.
the type
It's
of
like
underlying
anecdote to
misogyny
bring up.
that many of us have.
Yeah, it is like a bit of a it's a little bit of like a misogynist thing, but it's also just kind of a funny like example to bring up. Like, I was misogynistic the other day. I assumed the doctor was a man.
Women being doctors?
It's just a really funny one to bring up.
Why isn't it?
because I guess we grow up where a lot of people just assume that men are doctors. I don't know
Wait,
that.
because more men are doctors.
Maybe that
because they've been
person's
given.
dad was a doctor, so he just had it in his mind that his dad's a doctor. So yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
It's
catching
okay if we can't get to a middle ground, but just one last chance.
Tom really pushing
at
this
least
one. I don't
offer
know
a
why he
statement that you
fought for
think
this
both
one so
sides can
hard.
agree with.
Yeah, I believe.
He's ready to write me off. You know, I was trying hard. These guys are very adamantly saying, no, we're not going to find one.
Happen. But I think at a societal level, we do see more of it negatively toward men, not women. Show me, I guess, give me examples of where you think this is happening more predominantly against women than men.
Against women? The fact that women are denied the ability to receive certain types of education. In the sense of, within schooling, they are often intentionally pushed towards certain
designed
careers.
for women.
Wait,
I'm
no,
sorry,
no,
guys.
no, no,
Just
no,
for
fine.
time,
No,
we're gonna have to end this one, but let's at least shake hands. And it was a good try. Thank you, guys.
No ill will, even on camera. Okay. Okay.
That's something.
All
I have
right,
really
moving
nothing to say on
into
it. I
our
think
next
Oliver
prompt.
really did hit all the points. Everything made a lot of great sense, and yeah.
Is Elon Musk a
But that's what I
good-
meant when I said like it is either a good productive conversation or it's blood sport, and that's what you just witnessed was just pure blood sport. Which I don't necessarily think the other guy was as equipped for that as Oliver was, because Oliver was bringing up like real world stuff, while he was just kind of focused more on like just like social media and kind of bad feelings about stuff like that.
Good masculine role model? Sounds like there might be some divide. Come forward and find your speaker.
Let me see what the Reds, the Reds say.
he's not a good role model on this side.
Right.
I don't even know the guy.
Okay, there's a bunch of baby mamas, which is not very traditional or like good for like a family household.
I believe he has a great mind and he's contributed a lot to society with SpaceX and all the other things. But again, I have no idea about who he is as a person, so I don't know if he's a good man or not.
We're no different than them when we just say, oh, well, he makes money, right? So does Andrew Tate. I don't think we would agree that Andrew Tate is a in-the-house father figure that's morally guiding his children, right?
It's
When would
unlikely
we be
that
like,
anyone
oh,
in
he
this
makes
room
money,
knows
so
more
he's a great...
about the damage that
I'm
Elon is doing
confused.
to our government than I do. It's also unlikely that someone in this room knows more about Elon's history than I do. This is something I have a lot of mastery in, and I would absolutely love to destroy on this topic. My qualifications, I'm a political analyst, and I was an advisor to a presidential campaign. I am deeply involved in politics and governance.
All in favor of Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else really even tried to step up for that. We were all very, very much so like in it. And I loved Ryan. I was very happy I got to sit next to Ryan. He was very knowledgeable, very, very. He's done this before, and this is my first time doing this kind of thing. So it was a really good person to talk to and have the experience with for sure. But I'm gonna be honest, this topic, just very similar to the porn one, was like such an easy kind of topic. He didn't even really have to try, and so he was just kind of like, yeah, you know. He's just kind of. I would much rather have really enjoyed like a contentious one about this, like in the idea of Bloodsport. I'm glad, obviously, you know, that on this specific thing they agree because I agree, but he didn't really get to flaunt his stuff. See.
Maybe would need in order to go in a certain direction that the president is deciding to go in, sure. But in terms of like a human being perspective, like first of all, like he's a Dutch South African. They hands down supported apartheid. Like I've been trading Tesla stock for years, dude. It's freaking great. But now I stopped trading it just based off the fact of where he stands politically.
There's nothing masculine about
That's
abandoning
very
your
interesting.
kids. There just isn't.
I feel like we're all generally in the no column for varying reasons. Obviously, he's a great business mind. I would love to just completely just like fight it down.
I disagree that he's a great business mind. I agree that if you are given millions of dollars as a kid, it's pretty hard to lose those millions. I think he just has a lot of ambitions. It's not hard to have ambitions. It's very easy to have ambitions, have money, and succeed.
And just say, listen, he's a great person that has accomplished many great things, but he is off his rocker right now, and he's never been fully on his rocker, and he's not an ideal of what the average American man should be striving to be.
Me. 1, 2, 3. The groups have chosen their speakers. Napoon, you're coming on up. And Ryan.
They had a very interesting religion one that got cut too. Yeah, I think about it.
Let's see where this goes. Is Elon Musk?
I wonder why
a
that one got
masculine
cut.
role model?
That was
What do you
much
guys
more of a
think?
conversation.
I don't believe that anyone is evil, and I believe everyone has virtues. I think Elon's a really complicated, problematic, and potentially broken person, and I think he gets exalted because his successes are obvious, but his failures aren't as covered. And I think, but more than that, I think when you're looking for a male role model who is successful, there's so many people out there who don't have such an open track record for, casually having children everywhere and rejecting his child for something that they can't control. And it's hard for me to see how he would be in the top 1,000 of anybody's list.
Okay. So the consensus of our group, which I'm here to represent, is that hell no.
You guys don't think that?
Yeah, we don't think he is a proper role model for varying reasons. Obviously, successful businessman, brilliant mind. The man can catch a goddamn rocket. Like, so obviously he's great. But at the same time, he's with Trump right now.
Again, he did not. Okay, I just want to say, there's so many things you could say about this. He did not program a rocket to be caught. He hired people to do it. It does not take a brilliant mind to hire people and be like, hey, I want to try and catch this rocket, make it happen. That's it. Oh, damn, I muted again.
Everywhere. He's moving left and right. He's not standing on a singular value that we can actually hold him to, except, I guess, the value of money and success and business development. So based on that and the fact that he lacks a demonstration of family values, we don't think he's a role model for, like, the everyman.
Okay, so let's cut to the crap here. Let's get a middle ground statement on why you think he's not a good masculine role model.
Well, there's a lot.
Side note, I did not step in front of the Tesla that might hit me later.
I did. I mean, I think it could be as simple as he's not a good role model.
So I would say that Elon Musk, albeit a great man that will be remembered in history for significant accomplishments in business and science, does not represent a proper masculine role model, as he has put himself in an imbalanced way to achieve those successes, and he does not demonstrate the spirituality, the family values, or the social values to be a good role model.
I mean, I think the thing that sticks out to me that I can't agree with is that he'll be remembered as a great man. I think he'll be remembered, and I think he'll be remembered as at least somewhat successful and impactful, but I think he'll be remembered as a mixed bag, as a human.
I mean, history is written by the victors, so we can't really decide how he's going to be written.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah. He's a bad masculine role model because he's an imbalanced person focused entirely on business and
they're just like coming up with like
for his
the best way to rag on him together. It's so funny.
Growth for society, semi-acknowledging what he's done in the most recent election.
I wouldn't say that those are the reasons why.
Okay.
What makes him problematic transcends any one of those things and incorporates them all. I think
his use of Roman salutes,
and that's not great.
Yeah.
But I think also if we're talking about family values, I'm not sure he has values. I mean, there are some people who just they're not immoral or moral; they're amoral. They kind of exist in this.
The way
weird
Ryan
third
talks
world,
about him is so funny to me. It feels like he has like some big secret that he just hasn't. Like he's just hyping up to get us excited about like some big thing he knows about him. But now it's all open. Everyone knows. Everyone knows how terrible.
By definition, people who are clinically narcissistic, those are amoral people. Their brain can't do good or bad that way. They're not inherently bad because they're not doing good or thinking good or saying good. They don't have access to what we would consider good. It's just not available to them at all.
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to try and suggest that he has one way or the other. I just know that from the perspective of what we can see on the outside, obviously his $100 billion industry and his $100 billion life that we see only 1% of. I mean, one person brought up that his family was Dutch, white, in South Africa, so they might have a problematic history with apartheid there, and a whole slew of other things. The point is, what we see in front of us, the man presented in front of us, is not someone that anyone sits and goes, yeah, that's a Chad. I want my kid to grow up like that. Like maybe in business, for sure. Maybe in science, for sure. But other than that, it's not someone that you think about and you look as a well-balanced person that you want to be.
Yeah, I can certainly agree that he's not well-balanced, for sure.
Yeah. Elon Musk is not a good masculine role model because masculinity gives value to someone because...
Let's just leave it at
Yeah.
that. Elon Musk is
He's
not a good role model.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I love that it's really that easy.
Sounds
Elon
good.
Musk is not a good role model.
All right, let's fight about something else.
That concludes part 1 of this Middle Ground XL. We're going to revisit those middle ground statements that we found in the debates in part 2, and we're going to give all of these men the opportunity to say whether or not they agree with those statements. If you agree that Elon Musk is not a good role model, come to the middle. If you think he is, stay seated.
There's nothing you can tell me that's saying that Elon Musk is not a leader.
I think porn, like, there is a good release. Bro, if I'm not nutting, you know, it could get crazy, bro. Who knows?
That is a bullshit reason to make a mandate for other people. You guys have got to stop discrediting our points just because your faith backs you up.
Mr. Judgmental over here just shifted my, because listen, y'all can laugh all you want. You ain't got no game like I have. Laugh all you want.
You're never going to win me over on this idea that relationships should fundamentally be structured by one person leading another.
A man's job is to create order. A woman's job is to create the universe.
So if you no longer fully identify as a progressive man or as a traditional man, and you see yourself more as a moderate, move to the center now.
I guess you have to wait for. Oh, my bad. Didn't mean to do that. Guess you have to wait for episode 2, because that is it for tonight. Oh, what a good time! I had a great time filming. I had a great time reacting to it tonight. I can't believe I doubled the video length. That makes me. I guess it's good reaction, but man. It is 6:30 in the morning. I have got to get to bed. But thank you everybody for coming out and watching today. I'm sure all 2 of you who viewed the video had a good time. I'm very political in my heart. I would never shy away from my values, but the kind of stuff that I like doing on the internet is mostly like just video game stuff and hanging out and looking at things. I may talk more about this stuff in the future if I have like some perspective to offer, but the truth is that I'm not the most like educated, knowledgeable person about this stuff. I just speak from my heart for what I feel is right, and I try to do my best to advocate for others, and that's really all I can do. So yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that maybe some things that I say and will say resonate with you. And if you want to see me talk about movies, because I love talking about movies, you can go to youtube.com/@KinoKino, KenoKino, or you can go to youtube.com/@KinoVera, just to go and see me play video games and talk about video games and stuff, if that's the kind of thing you're into. But this channel will be where I talk about anything. So if it's politically related or just random things in the world, who knows? But honestly, it's been a great night tonight. And I hope you all have a great rest of your night. And I'll see you for part 2 when it comes out. Later.